Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている。俺の死に様か。
You have become a Chunin. This is very good. The higher your rank, the more profitable your deal with the Hyuga clan will be. I didn't think you could, but you did. This played into the hands of our clan. Fugaku put the documents on the table and looked at his youngest son. Your acquaintance with the bride will take place very soon. My acquaintance with the bride will take place when I have her. Sasuke snapped. What you said? I didn't tell you anything new. I'm not going to marry someone to satisfy your ambitions. I will only get married when I want to. Sasuke still spoke indifferently. I'm leaving the village for 5 years. I won't let you do this. Fugaku shook his head. You're not going anywhere. I didn't ask you, Oto-san. Hokage-sama approved the trip. I'm leaving tomorrow at dawn with Tsunade-san and Jiraiya-san. I am the head of the clan. And I'm your father. You can't disobey me. You may be good as a leader, and I really cannot disobey you, but as a father, you have clearly failed. Sasuke said venomously. I love my clan, I love my family, but I won't let any of you rule my life. Only I can do this. I am your father. Fugaku repeated. If you really knew what it was to be a father, you wouldn't have ruined Itachi's life. You wouldn't humiliate me year after year by comparing me to my brother, you wouldn't destroy my personality every day, seeing in me only the shadow of Itachi. Don't bring Itachi into this. He is the heir to the clan. He really is an Uchiha. And you? Sasuke's eyes lit up, bright red. I can kick you out of the clan, what will you become then? My beliefs are what defines my identity, said the younger Uchiha. You can kick me out of the clan, you can gouge out my eyes, but you will never drive the Uchiha out of me. I will always be him, no matter what you do. Sasuke's eyes went dark. You keep ruining my life. You weren't even interested in whether I had a lover. You don't care about my life, because you are looking for benefits for the clan. Oto-san, you don't care about Itachi's life, am I right? You know he will be a good clan leader, perhaps even the best there has been. And this is largely thanks to you, of course. You gave him a lot as a mentor, but what did you give him as a father? Do you have a sweetheart? And if there is, will something change? Sasuke asked with a sigh. In my life, I asked you for only one thing, respect for me as an individual. But what did you give me, won't you tell me? If you really want to be a father, then you will let me go. Because I need it. Because I am your son and you should at least respect me. Fugaku looked at Sasuke for a long time. He looked into his eyes and saw what he had long ago seen in his own firmness, confidence, and a true representative of his clan. This is what he always wanted to see in himself and in his children. He never thought he would be able to see this in his youngest son, who had always been his personal disgrace. But what if Fugaku was wrong? What if Sasuke was not at all what he saw him as? For the first time in his life, Fugaku was unsure of his judgment. I'm letting you go, the elder Uchiha finally said. 5 years, Sasuke. Try to prove to me that you are worthy to be my son, a representative of our great clan. Sasuke grinned. He turned towards the door, but still stopped. You still don't understand anything, Oto-san. The younger Uchiha said coldly. I don't have to prove to you that I am worthy of being your son, because I am your son. When you understand that your children are not bargaining chips, believe me, you will learn a lot of interesting things. With these words, Sasuke walked out the door, leaving his father to think. Thinking a lot. Itachi was waiting for the younger one on the street. He sat on the stairs, intensely looking at the morning sky. The clouds floated serenely, in which various images could be seen. A light breeze shook the front strands of his older brother's hair that had escaped from his ponytail. The voices of awakening clan members could be heard, and Konoha was already seething with life. Everything was fine with the people, and no one cared about what was happening in the souls of the two brothers. "I'm leaving tomorrow at dawn," Sasuke informed him. 5 years. I'll be gone for 5 years. Do you think that I won't find something to do with myself? I hope you find yourself, Itachi nii. Sasuke nodded. I already found. I want to be the head of the clan, Otuto. I want the clan to prosper. You know, this is really important to me. Itachi spoke quietly. But I don't want to lose my little brother over this. I love you, Sasuke. And I'm sorry that I once put the clan above you, because you needed me so much. The past cannot be corrected. I should have told my father that your life is as important as mine. That you are a son like me. Itachi sighed. I don't need you to ruin your relationship with Ota-san by going against him. I just want you to be happy, Itachi. You decide what makes you so. Sasuke shrugged. What makes me happy? Happiness, you know, is a relative thing. Here it was, but here it is not. Have you ever felt happy? Absolutely happy, nii-san. When you were born, I was really happy. I can't be born a second time, sorry. The younger Uchiha chuckled. You said you were in love. Are you not happy with her? Love is not always happiness. She doesn't love you? Is it possible not to love you? We are together, but is this absolute happiness? Of course, I'm happy with her, but that's not what you said. Is it possible to be absolutely happy? So try to find out while I'm gone. You have 5 whole years ahead of you. Sasuke chuckled. I love you, Otuto. I know, nii-san. For what must have been the first time since arriving in this world, Sasuke felt at peace with his brother. Many words were said between them, but each of them was undoubtedly important. Something has definitely changed. Naruto and Sasuke stood near the gates of Konoha as the sun was just beginning to appear on the horizon. They looked at the village, waiting for the Sannin to arrive. And Shikamaru. They haven't seen Nara since that conversation. Travelers respected personal space and knew the need to reflect. Shikamaru already had little time to sort everything out, and flashing Naruto and Sasuke next to each other clearly wouldn't help him. So they just waited. If he didn't come, his answer would be very clear and understandable. Uzumaki spent yesterday at home. She didn't go anywhere, she just collected the necessary things and talked with Kurama. The girl practically didn't go downstairs, she only had breakfast and dinner. Kushina came to her once to ask about the trip, but nothing more. The woman was taciturn and extremely modest. In the evening Yoichi came in and told her to be careful, but that was all he did. In general, we can say that she devoted the whole day to herself and her thoughts. The early morning was also not very varied. Naruto woke up, washed her face, and got dressed. Then she took the necessary things, went downstairs, and quickly had breakfast with what she found, since Kushina, like everyone else, was still sleeping. Of course, what normal person would get up so early? Naruto was about to leave the house when Minato came down from above. The man was clearly sleepy, having just woken up and not quite collected. He looked too homely, so Naruto was even confused for a few seconds. Then she bowed to him. Are you leaving? Asked Minato. Yes. The girl nodded. Good luck. And be careful. Naruto didn't even respond to such a cold farewell. She bowed and left the house. And now she and Sasuke, who had come after her, stood near the gate, waiting for the others. On the way, he told her about how the conversation with Fugaku went. Naruto sincerely sympathized with the head of the clan if he decided to go against Sasuke. She would personally force him to take back his words and break off this Shrek's engagement, although the Uchiha, she thought, would handle it just fine. A few minutes later the Sannins arrived. They greeted their young travelers and started talking about something only they could understand, so Naruto and Sasuke successfully filtered everything they said. In fact, the young shinobi did not receive any useful information. Or, when a familiar figure appeared on the horizon, Shikamaru walked yawning. Apparently he had just woken up and went straight to the gate. He had a rather impressive backpack on his shoulders, his clothes were not familiar to him, and his face was still as indifferent. Who came up with the idea of leaving so early? Who is this monster? Young Nara sighed as he approached his comrades. The sooner we leave, the further we'll go, Tsunade said enthusiastically. No more questions. Shika shook his head. The Sannin were again distracted by a conversation that only they could understand, so Team 10 moved away from them. We have a lot to talk about, my friends, but like I said, we are a team. And we always will be. I had to think a lot yesterday. I talked to my father. He told me to do what my heart tells me. He will support me in everything. So I listened to him. My heart told me not to leave my team. That's exactly what I did. I trust you as much as you trust me. Thank you, Shikamaru. Naruto smiled. The boy chuckled and pulled the Jinchuriki towards him to hug and kiss the top of his head. He really loved these people, and it didn't matter to him what they did in their past life. What mattered was who they were now. I'm waiting for stories from you. Lots of interesting stories. Nara snorted, clapping Sasuke on the shoulder and releasing Naruto. We guarantee this to you. The Uchiha grinned. Who are we waiting for? Uzumaki asked louder to attract the attention of the Sanins. They did not have time to answer, as Obito and Kakashi appeared near the gate. The first, as soon as he saw his beloved students, rushed to hug them, and Hatake approached Tsunade and Jiraiya. Obito was the first to capture Naruto. He held her close and stroked her back, asking everyone to be careful and not get into anything they shouldn't. He then tried to hug Sasuke and Shikamaru, but they conveniently jumped out of the way so Obito didn't catch them. Naruto looked resentfully at her comrades and promised them with her lips punishment from all the gods. The boys just smiled. We're not leaving forever. We'll be back very soon. Shikamaru reasoned phlegmatically. Obito, leave the poor kids alone. You'll scare them so much that they won't come back at all. Hatake said slowly. I will miss you, my children, said the elder Uchiha. Appreciate that, because Kakashi clearly isn't going to tell you that. Why would I do this if you said everything? The copy man reasoned. Don't forget about us. Write letters, we will be waiting for your return. Obito said this with such drama that Naruto thought about an impending tearful attack from her mentor. But the Uchiha stood firm and did not shed a single tear. For about 10 minutes, they said goodbye to their mentors, until Tsunade and Jiraiya notified that it was time to move out. Kakashi asked them to be careful and keep an eye on the Sanins, to which the above-mentioned only snorted. The couple themselves promised to make the most worthy of these shinobi, after which Obito said that they were already like that. Time to go, said Jiraiya when the mentors left. Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru nodded as they took one last look at the village. They left for 5 long years. Who knows what will happen on the road, what will happen in the village, whether the young shinobi will change or remain the same. The future is unclear. But Team 10 was together, and they were ready to conquer it. Naruto woke up in a strange white place. More precisely, this place was eerily familiar, but for what reason she was here again, one can only guess. Uzumaki sighed heavily and looked around to find something or someone. But she knew from experience that it was useless. Rikudo-senin? The girl called without much hope. Hi Naruto, long time no see. The sage suddenly appeared in front of her. Absolutely unchanged, sage. But why should he change? Am I dead again? The girl asked a completely logical question. The last time she saw him, this shinobi sent her to a parallel world, before informing her that she had died. No, you're alive. I came to you in a dream. The sage smiled. Naruto exhaled, because she definitely didn't want to live a new life. These two were enough for her. I just decided to check on you, to find out how you settled in this world. Are you happy, Naruto? This is why people are given a second chance, so that they can find happiness. Is she happy? A lot has happened in this life, a lot has changed during this time. Almost 6 years have passed since Naruto and Sasuke moved into this world, but has Uzumaki found happiness? What was happiness for her, complete and boundless? She was undoubtedly happy that her lover was alive, healthy, had not become a nuke and did not need to be chased all over the country. She was happy when he hugged her, kissed her, and was just nearby. Naruto was happy that her loved ones were loved and loved, that they received care and lived life to the fullest. But there was something dark in her chest, something that did not allow her to feel 100% happiness. Perhaps it was her family, Kushina, Yoichi, and Minato, whose motives and goals are unclear. Perhaps she was frightened by the unknown, what would happen in this world, what to expect from her, how her days would pass when she returned to Konoha. I'm on the way to this happiness, Rikudo Sennin. Found Naruto's answer. Okay, you deserve it. The sage nodded. Be careful. Take care of those you love. Who knows how history will turn out in this world? You know, it didn't make me feel any better. The girl sighed. I can't tell you more. The sage chuckled. Why did you send Gaara and me at different times? What's the point of this? Nevertheless, Naruto asked about something that had been worrying her for several years. He needed time to deal with his demon. He needed to somehow stabilize his life. And the fact that he knew about you and Sasuke, that you would also end up in this world, helped him significantly. All the 2 years he spent in this world were training for him. The knowledge that you will also be here became an incentive to grow and develop, change, pacify Shikaku. He needed much more time to adapt. Is there anyone else in this world from my native one? Perhaps there is someone, Naruto, or perhaps there is no one. Who knows who knows? This answer did not reassure the girl at all. To be more specific, everything has become much more confusing. After all, someone could move forward several years, and someone could find themselves dozens of years ago. It was a very complex system that the simple, so to speak, could not understand. Before we say goodbye, I want to tell you this. Your powers were always with you, you needed to prepare your body to accept them. You have become stronger in 5 years. Much stronger, Naruto. When you completely merge with Kurama, then all your powers will return to you. Easier said than done. When was everything simple? Rikudo asked a logical question. Naruto sighed heavily. After these words, the old man said goodbye and wished good luck to the young lady and her companions in this life. When Naruto opened her eyes, she was where she had fallen asleep on a rather uncomfortable futon in the forest. She stood up and stretched, listening to nature, a quiet rustle somewhere behind the bushes, the snorting of foxes, and the sounds of fireflies' wings. Several insects had already habitually settled on Naruto's arms and legs, sparkling with a bright blue light. It was always dark in this forest, the sun's rays only occasionally made their way through the dense foliage of the trees. The nature of this place was fascinating, calming, it was as frightening as it was stunning. There was no end in sight to the forest, because there was none. The clearings where foxes mainly live are the only difference from the endless and tall trees. One day, Naruto climbed to the very top of a tree, made her way through thick foliage and thorny branches to look at this world from above. She saw the bright sun, a clear blue sky and a forest. There were trees on all sides that blocked the view even of large clearings. It felt like the girl was looking at an endless green expanse that swayed from the wind. Naruto rose to her feet and stretched again, flexing her muscles. Then she, as she had always done for the last few months, ran through the forest. During the time that she spent in the conscript world, the girl learned to navigate here well. Somewhere she left arrows, somewhere some marks, but soon she could walk through the forest alone without any problems, without Jima and other foxes. A morning run helped to cheer up and get in the mood for training, as the elder once told her, so the foxes immediately after getting up chased her through the forest. After the run, Naruto went to the waterfall to wash and do all the procedures, and then there was breakfast. After breakfast workout. More training. And a lot more training. Sometimes it seemed to Naruto that her days merged into one continuous training, although at some point this actually happened. When Uzumaki completed her morning ritual, she walked out into the clearing to the foxes, where Jima and Izumi were already waiting for her. Little foxes ran around the elder, who, seeing the Jinchuriki, immediately rushed towards her. They rubbed their heads against her legs and snorted quietly. Naruto took one fox in her arms. She was especially attached to the girl. The Uzumaki stroked the baby's orange fur and then scratched her side. "It's time for you to go, Naruto," Jima said, approaching her companion. The girl stroked the white fox and released the orange one, who was already eager to join her brothers and sisters. The cubs ran away, leaving Izumi, Jima, and Naruto alone. "Thank you for everything." Uzumaki smiled. "I really loved this place." "You're always welcome, Naruto." The elder nodded. "A whole year has passed in your world, so they must already be waiting for you." "Yes, and you miss your lover and your friend." "Certainly." Uzumaki exclaimed joyfully. She looked at the blue-eyed fox and stroked its white fur, tilting it towards its muzzle. Jima rubbed her head against Naruto's shoulder, and then the girl kissed her companion on the fluffy scruff of the neck. "Come any time, understand? I'm always glad to see you. Remember everything you learned here," the fox said in response. "I'll have nightmares about your training." "Of course I won't forget this." Naruto shuddered. The two foxes just snorted. The girl moved away from the animals to make seals. "See you soon, Uzumaki Naruto, wanderer," she heard before disappearing into the white fog. Naruto found herself in the same place where she had left for the draft world. It was a clearing on the outskirts of the fire country, where the Sanins had led them. It was here that team number 10 said goodbye for a year. Sasuke and Naruto went to their summoning worlds to train, and Shikamaru went to Konoha. He decided that it would be better for him to return a year earlier to continue development in his own clan. And Shikaku needed help, no matter how much he denied it. After all, Shika is now 18 years old and the sole heir of Nara. With heavy hearts, the Sannin released their goddaughter and her lover to the conscript worlds. They made a promise that they would be careful not to die or get hurt. The Uchiha and Uzumaki nodded with a clear conscience, but the two strongest shinobi and Shikamaru, of course, did not believe it. Something would definitely happen to them. But arguing with the stubborn Naruto and the equally stubborn Sasuke was more expensive, so the shinobi's departure still happened. However, the Uchiha and Uzumaki decided to return to the village with the Sanins, since their mission, as the Hokage called it, still had to be handed over and accountable for it. As it turned out, Shikamaru immediately agreed with Minato that he would return a year earlier than his comrades, so his solo return was not a surprise, at least for the Hokage. The meeting with the Sanins and Shikamaru, who firmly said that he would meet them upon their return, was supposed to take place today, but Naruto apparently arrived earlier. Finding herself in the clearing, the first thing Uzumaki did was take a deep breath. The air in the Forest of Truth was different, humid, heavier than in the Land of Fire. Naruto was really glad to find herself in her native land, feel her native smells, breathe in the familiar and beloved air, and step on the fiery land. So nice. See that you don't have a heart attack, a misunderstanding, or from joy. I'm not going to treat you. Kurama growled in his head. You just don't understand, you insensitive creature. Closing her eyes for a second, Naruto expanded her sensory abilities to the maximum. She felt 3 native chakras approaching from different directions. Jiraiya and Tsunade were coming from somewhere from the direction of the country of wind, and Shikamaru, of course, was coming from the direction of Konoha. The feeling of something familiar and close to my heart burned my chest. made my heart beat faster and my eyes shine with joy. The familiar flare of chakra was reflected by an equally strong flare in Naruto's soul as she found herself pinned to the ground by her body. Sasuke placed her hands on different sides of her head, pressing her firmly to the hard surface. His grinning face would forever be etched in Naruto's memory because he was so handsome in that moment. But Uzumaki was not going to give up so easily. She made a jerk and, tearing her hands away, rolled over. A hook, another jerk, and Sasuke was lying under her, and she herself sat comfortably on his stomach, clasping her hands behind her head. "Well, hi, Uchiha." She grinned. Unable to bear it, Sasuke pulled his hands away and, placing them on his lover's neck, pulled her towards him. Naruto felt something warm envelop her heart when she felt Sasuke's lips on hers. The girl lay with her chest on her lover's chest, wrapping her legs around his sides, when she felt a sharp jerk. And now, she is already sitting on Sasuke's legs, still holding his sides with her legs. She buried her hands in his hair, pulling it back slightly, and the young man himself put his hands on her bare back, drawing circles with his thumbs. The Uchiha kissed her first tenderly, and then, with growing passion. Through a kiss, he conveyed everything that he could not say in words. "I missed you, I'm glad to see you, you are everything to me." Sasuke skillfully parted her lips and ran his tongue along the bottom, immediately penetrating her hot lips. Naruto felt how her world ended and another began. Where there was only her and Sasuke, their kisses, their hugs. Before, Uzumaki could not even think that she was capable of feeling this. For the Uchiha, kisses have always been something special, very personal and important. Sasuke was not an eloquent man, but his kisses spoke for him. The zeal with which he gave himself up to kisses clarified a lot. He may not have been good at expressing his love in words, but Naruto always felt it when Sasuke's lips were on hers. Their kisses were always different. Sometimes it was a competition for superiority, sometimes Naruto herself surrendered to the power of her man, allowed her to play this game. There were times when the Uchiha wanted to be led, he gave power to his beloved, and she could do whatever her heart desired with him. Sometimes there was tenderness, when support and understanding were conveyed through a kiss. The last kisses always ended in competition. But it was precisely these kisses that drove her crazy the most. Naruto loved this side of Sasuke, when he was not a block of ice, but a sensitive lover. He felt the slightest change in Naruto, he put all of himself, his feelings into this kiss, he opened up. For Sasuke, kissing was important because it could make him vulnerable, open, subjugate him. The first kiss in a year, although even more had passed in the conscript world, made Naruto's head spin. She felt everything Sasuke wanted to tell her, and it made it even worse, because she felt the same. "I miss you," she whispered quietly when they broke the kiss. Sasuke kissed her again. It was a simple, almost chaste touch of lips that sent shivers throughout the young shinobi's entire body. "We need to get up. Shikamaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya will be here in 2 minutes." The Uchiha nodded. Naruto quickly rose to her feet, smiling brightly. Sasuke stood behind her and, hugging her waist, kissed the top of her head. Naruto straightened her hair, which had grown even longer over 5 years. She looked down at her clothes, which currently consisted of black shorts, an orange mid-length top, and a black cape with short sleeves. As usual, she had a pouch hanging from her belt, and on her feet she was wearing knee socks and black shinobi sandals. Uzumaki's form was noticeably rounded, which was emphasized by her rather tight clothes. Now standing in front of Sasuke was not a little 12-year-old girl, but an adult girl, capable of attracting any man with her appearance. The Uchiha himself has also changed. He stood so tall that he was a full head taller than Naruto. His face took on adult Shrek's, the innocent beauty disappeared, giving way to the stunning Shreksuality of the young Uchiha. The cheekbones now stood out more clearly, and the eyes acquired a deeper black color. His hair had grown noticeably, but there were still 2 strands framing the edges of his face. The clothes emphasized the shinobi's fit, strong figure, tight black pants emphasized strong legs, and a gray shirt, half tucked into his pants, although not tight, clearly highlighted Sasuke's muscles. A small piece of his toned chest was visible because the top buttons of his shirt were successfully undone. Standing in front of Naruto was no longer the cute little boy from the academy, but an adult Odi guy who broke the hearts of girls with one look. I forgot what you were like. The Uchiha chuckled, running his eyes over his beloved's body. You couldn't forget, Uchiha. Naruto snorted. Shikamaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya appeared almost simultaneously. The Sanins immediately rushed to hug their beloved and only goddaughter, bombarding her with questions about her well-being, training, and news. The girl just laughed and promised that she would definitely tell everything later. And while Naruto was captured by her godparents, Shikamaru approached Sasuke. He grinned and pulled him towards him, hugging him. The Uchiha patted him on the back, sincerely happy to meet his comrade. I thought you were lost in your forests there. Shikamaru snorted. You will not get it. Naruto laughed as she approached her friend. She hugged the tall guy tightly, pressing her head to her chest. Nara kissed the top of her head, as he always liked to do, and laughed too. Glad you're back, the Nara said as he watched Tsunade and Jiraiya greet Sasuke. The Uchiha smiled almost friendly at them when they patted him on the shoulder, and then said something. Naruto pulled away from her friend to look up at him. Shikamaru, as she noticed, had hardly changed, he had only become much taller, Databeo. His face was still as indifferent, his eyebrows were drawn to the bridge of his nose, and his hair was tied into a ponytail. He still sighed heavily, looked at the sky and smiled softly. Something changes, but something remains the same. Time to go. The village will not wait, Jiraiya said cheerfully, hugging Naruto's shoulders. She won't leave. The girl snorted. It's time to go home. Konoha greeted travelers with its usual noise. People walked along the street, loudly discussing the latest news. Some looked back at the strange company that was walking towards the residence. In the village itself, little has changed, except that there are more houses, and the streets are a little wider. The faces of the 4 Hokage were still looking at Naruto from the monument. The atmosphere in this place is the same as it was 5 years ago, friendly and fun. Shikamaru. They heard a voice when they approached the residence. Guys who looked suspiciously like Kiba and Chuji ran towards them. More precisely, Inuzuka was running, and Akimichi was walking behind him, eating something incomprehensible. Tsunade and Jiraiya, apparently having seen something on the faces of those approaching, ran away. Did something happen, Kiba? Nara asked, slowly. You promised to watch our training. Shikamaru undoubtedly already regretted this promise, and his face clearly showed this. The shinobi winced, closed his eyes, and tilted his head. Naruto, hearing a heavy sigh, grinned and folded her arms over her chest. Shikamaru, are you working as a mentor now? She asked sarcastically. Let me ask you, are you tired of simple missions yet? Nara looked at her with a tortured look. But before the young genius had time to respond to this statement, Sakura and Ino appeared next to Kiba. Yamanako looked at Shikamaru with such awe that there were no more questions left. This person turned her attention to the second guy from Team 10. Kiba was apparently the intermediary who relayed Ino's requests and blew Shika's mind. You understood everything yourself. Nara sighed, and Naruto tried with all her might to contain her laughter. Sasuke, standing nearby, grinned. Don't even say anything. He threatened the Uchiha just when he saw his smile. I didn't even intend to, Sasuke said slyly, which meant future jokes on his part towards his comrade. Shikamaru, Naruto started, but she was interrupted. Who are you to be so disrespectful to Shikamaru-kun? Yamanako got excited. Sakura, on the other hand, did not show any interest in this team and looked at the Uchiha with all her eyes, recognizing him as her idol. Sorry, Shikamaru-kun, for my ignorance. Naruto's lips trembled with a barely restrained smile. Nara looked at her hauntedly and with one look promised a quick death. Sasuke-kun? Haruno whispered. It's a shame not to recognize your classmates. Naruto said, remembering how she herself didn't recognize them in her world. Naruto? Ino was surprised, distracted from contemplating Shikamaru. You have changed. Imagine, people tend to change. The Jinchuriki chuckled. Sakura and Ino looked her over from head to toe, obviously noting the changed forms of the Hokage's daughter. Haruno even folded her arms to make her breasts appear larger than they actually were. Naruto resisted the urge to roll her eyes. Well, seriously, the girls are almost 18 years old, and they act like little dolls in love. Naruto, Sasuke. Chuji exclaimed, chewing his lunch. Glad to see you. Yoichi-sensei and Shursue-sensei did not say that you would be back soon. They themselves didn't know when we would return. Uzumaki shrugged. Over the course of 5 years, Yoichi and Kushina sent her 3 letters, to which they received the same number of responses. They asked about their journey, about their health, where they were now, and when they would return to Konoha. The letters also contained news from the village, which did not carry much value. Naruto, honestly, could never understand the motives of her mother and brother, which manifest themselves in incomprehensible outbursts of concern. What they wanted to show, what they wanted to say. What were these letters? Interest, concern for the life of your daughter, or simple politeness? Sasuke, every few months, always received a letter from Itachi, who told him about the clan, his father, Mikoto, and shared some stories. Often he asked him about their plans, the route, about their training. He sent Sasuke several scrolls on eye training, which the Uchiha read with some pleasure. Mikoto also sent several letters. No matter how the youngest son's relationship with his father and brother developed, the mother never did anything to humiliate the child. Mikoto took care of him, tried to give him at least some support that he did not receive from Fugaku. Before leaving for the conscript world, Sasuke warned his brother that he would be out of reach for a year, and asked him not to worry and to trust. The fathers of the families did not write a single letter to find out about their children. Naruto knew that around June of every year, Jiraiya or Tsunade would send a letter informing the Hokage that they were alive. They did not receive an answer, but they fulfilled Minato's request, so their conscience was clear. Obviously, these letters were enough for Namikaze to assuage his concern, too strong a word for the Jinchuriki. Team 10 also received letters from Kakashi and Obito. The latter acted like a mother hen, sending letters almost every month. At one point, Naruto was even surprised how did he find them so quickly. Obito's letters arrived the fastest. It felt as if he himself urged his ravens so that they would fly faster in the wind and look for shinobi. Kakashi was more reserved, of course. If Obito told him everything, why frequent letters? He came from him once every 6 months. The content of all the letters was essentially the same. Everyone asked about the trip, about health, and told something. Naruto was even surprised when she did not receive questions about control and the Kyuubi in letters from her mother and brother. Do you know if Kakashi-sensei and Obito-sensei are on a mission? Or in the village? Naruto found it strange that the Uchiha didn't meet them at the gate with a welcome sign and hugs. And it doesn't matter that no one knew about their return on this particular day, except Shikamaru. Obito would have found out and met him. They just returned from a mission at night, said Shikamaru. At least, when they left for the mission a week ago, they said that they would return either this morning or at night. So that's why there was no fanfare in honor of our return. The Jinchuriki said understandingly. They didn't even know you had to come back. Obito-sensei would have found out, Shika. Sasuke spoke up. Shouldn't you know? What is true is not a lie. Nara reasoned phlegmatically. So what about training? Kiba asked pitifully, glancing at Ino. Yes, Shikamaru-kun. The girl assented. I don't understand why I should watch the training. You already know all your shortcomings. The guy sighed. Shikamaru, what are you doing? Help your classmates. Naruto said mockingly. Nara gave her a death glare again and then looked up at the sky. Sasuke, don't even think about opening your mouth. Shikamaru warned again when he heard a chuckle from his comrade. And I was still silent. The Uchiha said coldly. It's like I don't know you. Shika rolled his eyes. I'm a little busy now. As you can see, my prodigal teammates deigned to return to their native village, so Hokage-sama is waiting for us. Then I have business with the clan, therefore, I can only devote my time to you in the evening. In the evening, this is after 6, dear classmates. Then we'll be waiting for you at 6 o'clock. Yamanako said joyfully. Sakura still looked at Sasuke without saying a word. Naruto noticed that she had become more restrained, less emotional, since she did not rush at her idol with a squeal and squeak. It was definitely progress. After these words, the team of Asuma and Kurenai left. More precisely, Ino grabbed her numb and frozen comrades by the elbows and dragged them away to God knows where. The Inuzuka could only wave to his comrades, simultaneously listening to the conversations of the thawed Haruno and her white-haired friend. Well, the relationships on this team are definitely much better than they were 5 years ago. Chuji patted Shikamaru on the shoulder encouragingly and walked away towards his clan. As her classmates disappeared from Team 10's sight, Naruto laughed heartily. She laughed so long that tears appeared in her eyes and her stomach cramped. Sasuke, due to his closed nature, could not laugh. Could he even do it? But his grin clearly did not bode well for Shikamaru, who was already anticipating the jokes of his comrades. You are so lucky, my friend. Naruto said after laughing. You are a guy in great demand among us. And before you know it, Ino Yamanako will grab you. Uzumaki burst out laughing. Sasuke, you are no longer the only shinobi that the fatal kunoichi of Team 7 want to get. There are now 2 of you. You know, it will be very funny for me if Kiba sets his sights on you. Shikamaru reasoned. It will really be very funny for me. You won't envy him if this happens. The girl shook her head. Although then we can be called the tamers of the 7th team. Throughout the 5 years, Naruto missed the village. Of course, she missed her, because all her life she protected her, no matter how hard it was for her. Uzumaki was ready to defend the village, its inhabitants, and the Hokage until her last breath. But in all the 5 years that she spent away from home, Naruto did not miss her father. She absolutely did not want to see a person who did not even consider her a daughter a Jinchuriki, the weapon of the village, the Kyubi no Yoko. Uzumaki was anything but a daughter to him. Naruto remembered her father from her homeworld, kind, strong, confident, loving. She didn't know how he would raise her, whether he would consider her weak or, on the contrary, strong, would help, support, or eventually become like the local Minato. Naruto did not know what her fate would have been like if her parents had survived that fateful day, but only warm memories of her family remained in her memory, the bright eyes of her mother defeating the demon, unity with her father in the fight against the Ten Tails, their first meeting with Kushina, and the first is with Minato. Some memories were painful, saying goodbye to my father, my last conversation with Ka-chan. But whatever those memories were, they were with Naruto. Thanks to them, Uzumaki continued to believe that she was wanted by her parents, that they loved her and wanted a better life for her. Maybe if her own parents loved her, then Minato and Kushina from this world did too? Maybe everything is not really what it seems? Although what could be more terrible than contempt, fear, disgust from those closest to you? If his parents had some goals, would Naruto be able to forgive them for all his years of loneliness? Does she need it? Hokage-sama, team number 10 in full force. Shikamaru said, bowing to Minato. He nodded his head in greeting, glancing at the Sannin sitting on the sofa. They just grinned. Glad to see you, said Namikaze, and Naruto didn't feel even the slightest bit of lie. Her father spoke sincerely. Welcome back Naruto, Sasuke. Thank you, Hokage-sama. The couple answered at the same time, bowing to Namikaze. He nodded with satisfaction. I need to decide what to do with you. I suspect that your powers are already above Chunin level, at least that's what Jiraiya-san and Tsunade-san say. I can't promote you to Jounin, the exam has passed. And you don't have enough experience. Let them work as a team. As it was before. Jiraiya suggested. They need to gain experience, although Shikamaru, I think, has more than these two. He nodded at Naruto and Sasuke. Yes, I went on missions of rank B and C. So I will have more experience. Uzumaki mentally grinned, not responding to Shikamaru's provocation. Of course, he has more experience, he's living a second life as a shinobi, yeah. Kakashi and Obito wouldn't mind being the captains of this trio. Tsunade added. They will gain the experience necessary for Jounin, and then pass the exam. I will need to look at your abilities. The Hokage chuckled. And test teamwork. Then I will tell you exactly what will happen to you. Tomorrow we will conduct some testing at the training ground. Yes, Hokage-sama. At the same time they said that there were 10 teams. You can go. The mission report is your test. Minato nodded to himself. The shinobi, having said goodbye to everyone in the office, walked out the door, naturally noticing the thoughtful look of the ruler. Are you sure about them? Are they really ready to return to missions? I was never more confident in anything than I was in Naruto and Sasuke. Shikamaru has been going on missions for a long time, but together with these two he will be even better. Tsunade's husband said. You didn't see what we saw, Minato. This team is one of the best that I have ever seen, and I have seen a lot. Someday you will hold up Team 10 as an example. Tsunade agreed. Mark my words, Minato. And the Sanins didn't lie a word to Namikaze, because Team 10 was truly surprising. At first they didn't understand why Naruto stuck to the team so much, but then, when they saw their training, their strange, but somehow special relationship, this question disappeared. Every team was support and support for the other, they were friends, advisors, sparring partners. Sometimes it even seemed to the Sanins that these children shared some secret one among three. They felt it was something important, but they never got involved in the team's affairs. Jiraiya and Tsunade understood the importance of care and support in a team, since there was no such thing in their team. The Sannin looked at this team, compared them with theirs, and realized what was wrong. Jiraiya always believed in Orochimaru, tried to see the good in him, said that everything would change soon, it would take time. But time passed, and everything got worse. Tsunade didn't have time to look back when only one word remained from their team. And what about them now? The three great Sanins, an overgrown snake gone crazy, the unlucky granddaughter of the first and her husband, an underwriter whose novels were never published. Senju hoped that this team would have a bright future, one that would not be overshadowed by quarrels and misunderstandings. She was sure that this would not happen, because she personally saw how these people influenced each other. Naruto, when they first left the village, was quite closed. She rarely got into arguments, never joked, hardly smiled, only when alone with Sasuke and Shikamaru, but the Sanins did not know about this. But the months and years spent on the road changed her. Now her godparents saw a cheerful, sarcastic and open girl in front of them. A smile could often be seen on her face, and she expressed her opinions, which often differed from Jiraiya's, openly, which led to long arguments. Sasuke, who was too silent, gloomy, and cold, did not stop being like that, of course. At first, he didn't trust the Sanins at all, he practically didn't talk to them, he only listened during training and nodded his head, but over the years something changed. After 3 years of travel, nightly conversations with Jiraiya on unknown topics became something familiar. Sasuke was opening up, and this made the Sanins very happy. He was still cold, taciturn and always extremely focused, but his eyes became kinder. The Uchiha began to trust the Sannin, ask questions about training, and just sometimes have conversations. Shikamaru, a lazy and sarcastic genius, also changed along the way. The laziness that literally flowed through his veins and arteries was significantly reduced, now it flowed only through the veins. Of course, there was no time to sleep at all on the trip, the Sanins were chasing them through taijutsu, ninjutsu, and so on the list. Nara was still reading scrolls with the clan's techniques, mastering each one gradually, which further reduced the time for rest. His mind became broader, his strategies better and better. In 4 years, neither Jiraiya nor Tsunade could beat him at shogi. Sasuke and Naruto only grinned when they saw the Sanins lamenting. In general, a lot has changed during the trip. That is why Tsunade and Jiraiya were completely confident in their students, they could handle it. Do you understand that you set me up when you supported Ino? Shikamaru asked as they left the residence. Naruto smiled slyly. I didn't even think about it, Shikamaru-kun. Nara decided that his teammate had taken the wrong path. She wanted to become an actress. To portray innocence like that requires talent. Of course, I believed you. Next to me, Sasuke just chuckled and nodded his head in agreement. I'll remember this for you. Waiting, my friend. The most exciting thing for Sasuke on the journey is the constant teasing, jokes and arguments between Naruto and Shikamaru. Unknown to the Sanins, these two constantly mocked each other, setting each other up in front of Sasuke or Jiraiya and Tsunade. Seriously, it was truly fascinating to watch. The Uchiha honestly enjoyed this spectacle, and then, with a clear conscience, teased each of them about their failures. For example, once, when travelers were staying at a hotel in some country, a team of 10 were placed in one room with 3 beds. And, of course, Naruto did not miss the opportunity to mock Shikamaru. While he was in the shower, she made the bed so that the guy suffered for a long time and could not lie down in it. The main thing is that at first glance everything was normal, so Nara calmly jumped under the blanket. However, his attempt was unsuccessful, because the next second he was lying on the floor. It turned out that Naruto had placed a cooling seal on the bed that kept whatever it was placed on cold. By the way, it was winter outside. That evening the team had fun in their room. Shikamaru searched his entire bed in search of that seal so he could go to bed peacefully. Naruto had absolutely no intention of helping him, so she sat on her bed and read the scroll as if nothing had happened, and Sasuke, who was watching this whole circus, was just having fun. Shikamaru, of course, did not remain in debt. He took revenge on her during training when he replaced her sharpened kunai with dull, used ones, and Naruto was unable to accurately hit the target and break through the tree. The Sanins were then surprised by such an event, because their goddaughter always hit the targets accurately. In this regard, Uzumaki was examined by a physician and lectured by Jiraiya, and Shikamaru sincerely enjoyed this spectacle from the sidelines. Sasuke thought that he was the most adequate person in this company, because everyone else behaved not like strong shinobi, but like a bunch of inexperienced genin. In general, it was this time that Sasuke considered amazing. It was moments like these that made the Uchiha plunge into childhood during the time of Team 7. They helped him understand that he had missed too much in the pursuit of power and lost just as much when he pursued revenge. At this time, Sasuke simply enjoyed being carefree and relaxed. There was no father, no Hokage, no exams and wars, there was only a team, Sanins, and a long journey. Travel taught him to enjoy moments, so he tried not to miss a single one. Team 10 walked down the main street of Konoha. Shikamaru talked about what had changed in the village and how their mutual acquaintances had changed. For example, Hinata and Niji began to communicate closely, trained together, they could often be seen together, which indicated changes in the latter's character. Asuma and Kurenai, as soon as their children finally passed the Chunin exam, got married. Naruto, of course, had no doubt that this would happen. Eventually, the couple had a son, who was already about 2 years old. Nara also said that his communication with Kiba reached a new level after the first return to Konoha. The Inuzuka clung to him like a bath leaf. This was really annoying, but over time they even found a common language, and Shika, with a clear conscience, now called him a friend. His story was interrupted by Ichiraku, who appeared on the horizon. Naruto was sincerely glad to see this establishment, so her eyes lit up, and she, leaving her comrades, ran there. Sasuke and Shikamaru, sighing heavily, trudged after her. Orders were placed and the team was in their seats, Naruto in the middle and her comrades on either side. Nara continued his story. It turned out that the relationships in Team 7 had also changed. The Inuzuka still found control over the wild and active girls. He began to put pressure on their weak point, pride. The girls were sincerely indignant when Kiba used Team 10 as an example. Sakura and Ino said that their teamwork would be even better than that of Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru, so the conflicts were soon resolved. Although for 5 years, the main conflict disappeared from the village, so it became much easier. The girls began to train hard, which Asuma and Kurenai could not get enough of, and 2 years later they finally passed the Chunin exam. Sakura, who was noticeably lagging behind her clan comrades and constantly frustrated, received advice from Asuma and Kakashi, who was watching them. He suggested that the girl go to Irainen, which is what Haruno did. First, she went to a course, where she was noticed by Shizune, who was called by Tsunade. It turns out that the Sannin did raise a student who had been traveling alone for a long time. Minato asked Tsunade for advice about Konoha's doctors, because the hospital had obvious problems with staff. Then the woman mentioned her beloved Shizune. True, she showed up in the village only a month after Team 10 left, but Minato, only appreciating her abilities, accepted her with open arms. Shizune started working, lifted the entire hospital from her knees, and then noticed Sakura, who showed great promise. So Haruno became her assistant and student. Naruto thought that fate, of course, is a complicated thing. She nevertheless led Sakura to medicine, which means this is her destiny. Of course, becoming Shizune's student is not the same as becoming Tsunade's student, but it is undoubtedly a very big step. If Haruno works some more, he will become an excellent doctor. No matter how hysterical Sakura was before, working with Shizune did her good. I noticed that she became more restrained. Naruto nodded her head. She is a worthy student. Shikamaru nodded. A few months ago, the hospital was full. All the shinobi agreed and returned from missions beaten, wounded, and ordinary residents fell ill, so the Hokage asked me to help. He knew that I was training with Tsunade, so I had no choice. While I was treating people, Sakura was working with me. I noticed everything that you told me about her. She really changed in her work, like a different person. Naruto and Sasuke nodded in agreement. No matter how their relationship was as a team, Shinobi Sakura was amazing. And they could not help but see and respect her talent, abilities, and work. Uzumaki was happy for the local Haruno that she had finally found her way. And here are our dear mentors. Naruto grinned when she felt the chakras approaching. One of them moved slowly, and the second much faster. Obviously, Obito and Kakashi had already received news of the arrival of their students, so they were now looking for them around the village. Uzumaki turned around in her chair when she felt them very close. Sasuke and Shikamaru repeated after her. A minute later, a hurricane in the form of their mentor rushed past Ichiraku, and the second one appeared right behind him, walking with a calm and measured step. Kakashi looked after Obito as he ran away and stopped next to the students, smiling with only one eye. Obito-sensei doesn't change. Naruto drawled, jumping from her seat. She smiled at Kakashi-sensei as he hugged her and congratulated her on her return. He greeted Sasuke with a nod and a handshake, to which the Uchiha responded with a slight smile and a chuckle. He didn't let me wake up. He ran into the house and said that you were back. Obito literally tore me off the bed, forced me to get dressed and go in search of you. Hatake sighed. You've only just returned and you're already ruining my life. Kakashi-sensei, you missed us, I know it. The girl grinned. Shikamaru cannot replace Sasuke and me, admit it. You've changed, Naruto. He simply said, looking into the distance, where Obito's figure was already flashing. Get ready. The Uchiha rushed over a minute later, stopping next to his comrade. He was all exhausted, but his eyes sparkled with an anticipatory gleam, which made it creepy. Kakashi, why did you stop? We need to find Naruto and Sasuke. He said, not noticing them nearby. Obito-sensei. Uzumaki called. Hi, Naruto. He answered her, but continued to bother Kakashi. Everyone was waiting for him to get it. After a few seconds, the Uchiha froze, and then looked at his students with a wide eye. A few more seconds, and Naruto finds herself in the strong embrace of the sensei, who was babbling something incomprehensible in her ear. Uzumaki laughed sincerely at all this, and the teacher's hugs were somehow familiar. Then he pulled the girl aside and looked at the second prodigal student with a manic gleam. Naruto saw pure horror in Sasuke's eyes as Obito pressed him. The younger one didn't even have time to react to him with such force that his bones crunched. Shikamaru quietly chuckled into his fist, masking it all as a cough when the younger Uchiha looked at him. He finally let go of poor Sasuke and started talking again. "You have grown so much, matured so much. But you are so thin, Naruto, Sasuke. Were you fed at all or were you starved? I asked you to look after you, it's so difficult to do, I don't understand. Naruto, she has become such a beauty. You will have so many fans. How many men's hearts will be broken? And Sasuke has become so handsome. I don't envy girls, because their hearts will be stolen by you. Oh, how we have grown, how we have grown. But still, you are very thin, you will need to talk to Tsunade-san and Jiraiya-san." The flow of words could not be stopped, so the Chunin could only sympathize with the Sanins with whom Obito was about to speak. "Obito-sensei, you've been asking me about the journey for a long time, right?" Shikamaru interrupted him. "Now we will tell you something. Since Naruto and Sasuke are back. Finally, I've waited." A strong and experienced shinobi exclaimed, now looking like an academy student. Naruto was sincerely perplexed at how this man could combine power and childlike spontaneity. "Lunch at your expense, Obito-sensei, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto grinned. The first was so inspired that he immediately agreed when the second looked up at the sky, apparently wondering about his sins. Sasuke and Shikamaru exhaled because their wallets were safe for today. Naruto would definitely make them pay for this belly fest. After a long conversation with the mentors, Team 10 finally went about their business. Shikamaru said that he had urgent business with the clan, but Naruto and Sasuke should show themselves to their relatives. Kakashi and Obito, devastated but happy to have their students back, went to Minato to hand in their mission report. Naruto was glad to immerse himself in this Team 10 atmosphere, with Obito being too worried, Kakashi controlling him, and the students just watching the circus. She really missed the arguments between her mentors, her conversations with Kakashi, and the dialogue between Shikamaru and Obito. She really missed it on the road. And Sasuke, it was clear, was pleased that he had returned to the village, although he had never had much love for it. Uzumaki knew that the team had become closer to family to him, so she could understand his feelings from meeting his mentors. He didn't show it, but Sasuke was glad and quite happy. The conversations covered a lot of things. Naruto and Shikamaru talked about where they had been, what they had seen and heard. Obito later complained that Nara hadn't told him this for a whole year, to which he responded in his own style. "I was expecting Naruto and Sasuke. Without them the story would be incomplete." There was even talk about Gaara. Naruto said that they met him once, several years ago, when they were in the Land of Rivers. The mentors did not ask for details, because Obito was clearly more interested in funny stories from the trip. And they actually met Gaara. Since Sabaku's father did not die, the Jinchuriki worked with the team. They carried out missions like ordinary shinobi. Sometimes they were sent to more complex, secret ones, which only a few people knew about. Naruto could see that her friend was happy, calm and collected, and the atmosphere in the family was clearly better than before. Later she found out that things were also going well with Shikaku. The raccoon did not rage, sat calmly, and did not stick out. Sometimes he and Gaara talk, but it was clearly far from complete mutual understanding. They took small steps towards each other. Team 10, the Sannin, and Team Sand spent the entire night in each other's company. Jiraiya, not surprisingly, found a common language with Kankuro, and Tsunade, Shikamaru, and Temari had long evening conversations. Sasuke, Naruto, and Gaara watched all this from the side, enjoying the friendship in the air. At night, when everyone was asleep and Naruto and Sasuke were on duty, Gaara and Shikamaru joined them. The Uzumaki and Uchiha shared with an old friend that they told their friend their story. The dog thought for a moment, and then nodded to himself, turning to Shika. Gaara said that in his life he trusted few people, but since Naruto and Sasuke trust their comrade, then, so does he. Then he told Shikamaru his story, for which the latter thanked him. Nara said that he would not fail his trust, just as he would not fail the trust of his teammates. Obviously, that night a new, albeit not yet strong, friendship was born between the genius of the Nara clan and the Jinchuriki of the One Tail. "What do you think is waiting for me there?" Naruto asked seriously as she approached the house. Yoichi, who had apparently stopped by for lunch, and Kushina were there. "But they won't eat you up, after all." The fox growled in his head. "As far as I remember, Kushina has never suffered like this." "Very funny, Kurama." "Then don't blow my mind, Uzumaki." I quickly went into the house. Kyubi clicked his teeth. "And who did you raise?" "Oh, shut up, you talking rug. And you told me this, you walking disaster." Naruto rolled her eyes and walked into the house, the door of which was unlocked as always. Voices came from the kitchen, getting closer and closer. As Uzumaki took off her shoes, Kushina appeared in the doorway, clearly surprised by her daughter. "Naruto. You are back." She smiled timidly. Obviously, a very important question was being resolved in the woman's head, because for a second she fell into a stupor. Soon she froze and, shrugging awkwardly, walked up to her daughter and hugged her. Naruto honestly fell out of the world while her mother held her in her arms. "Immortal?" The brother's voice sounded. Kushina let her go. "Hi, Nii-san, Kaa-chan." Naruto smiled, bowing slightly. "You have become such a beauty," said the former Jinchuriki. "Thank you." Uzumaki nodded. "Are you going to have lunch? Can you tell us about your trip? We haven't seen you for a long time." The girl shrugged her shoulders and shook her head. She wanted to say a lot to her family, but she was so tired from all these greetings that her only desire was a warm shower and a soft bed. "I had lunch with the team. Kakashi-sensei and Obito-sensei fed us." The girl refused. "I'll go to my room." "I hope she's still there, Kaa-chan." "Of course, Naruto," the woman exclaimed. Uzumaki nodded and walked past her relatives. She prayed that her brother or mother would not decide to have any conversation with her now, because the fatigue was getting stronger and stronger. However, her wish was not destined to come true, because, coming out of the shower, she found her older brother in her room, modestly sitting on a chair. Naruto looked at him in surprise, but didn't say anything, just walking into the room. The girl was walking around the room and doing things that only she understood. When Nisan finally decided to open his mouth. "Glad you're okay, Naruto. Don't worry, Nii-san, I control the Kyubi as much as possible. He didn't try to escape, I don't use his chakra, I didn't kill anyone," Uzumaki reported. "That's not what I'm talking about, Immortal," the guy said quietly, but Naruto sensed an obvious lie. "At least don't lie to yourself, Yoichi. I was worried about you." "Don't talk to me like that, Naruto, I don't want to fight," my brother asked. Uzumaki just chuckled at this. "You have changed a lot in 5 years. I can't be a recluse forever." The girl shrugged. "Say something. What should I tell you? What do you want to hear from me?" Naruto sighed. 5 years have passed, Yoichi, of course I have changed. How should I talk to a brother who hasn't put me in any regard for several years? Who only saw me as a monster and who didn't even try to understand me? Naruto. I remember that you got hurt, Nii-san. Trust me, I remember. And I'm really sorry that this happened. You were afraid of the fox, but I was never him. I was a weak girl whose brain was constantly being manipulated. I needed support, Yoichi, but the whole family turned their backs on me. Naruto said this calmly, without rage or anger. This was no longer the case, there was only disappointment. I understand. Don't tell me you understand, because you don't. You will never understand how a Jinchuriki feels when he is left alone with the voice in his head. Don't tell me that, because you didn't even try to understand. Uzumaki waved her off. Understand me, Naruto. I cannot. I tried to do this, but I don't understand you. I don't understand how you can leave a Jinchuriki without support. I don't understand how you can fear and hate your little sister for something over which she has no power. There are no instructions on how to be a Jinchuriki. I couldn't do anything with the voice in my head, with constant dreams. I was powerless, because I was a 6-year-old girl, Yoichi. You left me alone, although you promised to protect me. I didn't know then what kind of monster you could become. It was a low blow for Naruto. All her life she was called a monster, a demon, despised for what she did not do. She listened to all this in a past life, just as the local Naruto endured it all until she was 12 years old. I'm not a monster, Yoichi. Naruto shouted. And never was. If you cannot understand simple things, simple truth, then do not come near me. I was weak, I tolerated the way my family treated me, but I'm not going to do that anymore. From now on, know, Yoichi, that I will not allow myself to be humiliated, because I am the same person as you all. What do you mean by this? By this, I want to say that it's time for you to go. I'm tired and want to rest. We're not finished. We're done, Nii-san. The girl pressed. Get out of my room and close the door on the other side. Thank you for your warm greeting, it will forever remain in my memory. With that, Yoichi walked out the door, leaving Naruto alone. The girl sighed heavily and rubbed her eyes. Why do I need all this? The meeting with Sasuke's mother went as usual. Mikoto was delighted when she saw her youngest son on the threshold of the house, hugged him and kissed him on the cheek. The guide just chuckled and lightly hugged his mother in response, but didn't say anything. Then Kaa-chan began asking him about the road, about the trip, and asked why he wrote to her so rarely. Sasuke either remained silent, letting his mother express everything that had accumulated, or spoke in short but succinct phrases. Mikoto did not forget to mention that her son had matured a lot and became a real handsome man, to which Sasuke only chuckled. He had heard such speeches several times today. Kaa-chan, is Oto-san at home? Sasuke finally asked after Mikoto finished her interrogation. Yes, he is in his office. She nodded. And Nissan? Itachi should be back from his mission soon. The woman remembered. Okay, I'll go to my father. I am glad you came back. I'm glad to be back too, Kaa-chan. Sasuke nodded, speaking completely sincerely. He stood up from his seat and went to Fugaku's office. Sasuke was sure that his father had not changed in 5 years. Can years really correct a person of the old school, with long-established principles and life position? Sasuke could say that no, he could not be changed, because he was like that himself. The younger Uchiha was an adult whose principles and goals had been formed a long time ago. Moving to another world may have changed something in his vision of the world, in his character or opinion about this or that person, but deeper judgments remained unchanged. It was the same with Fugaku. For his father, the clan always came first, which, Sasuke is sure, has not changed. Oto-san did everything to ensure that the Uchihas prospered, became more powerful, captured more and developed connections. This is precisely why he lived, lives, and will live. But could his judgment about the correctness of his actions change? Undoubtedly, Fugaku believed that his children should follow in his footsteps and be the same protectors of the clan. They must be strong, and the eldest son showed, by example, that they could be so. Itachi was the perfect shinobi, so Fugaku wanted Sasuke to be like that too. Therefore, the words often began to be heard in the house, be like Itachi, take example from your brother, you are weak. In the place of his sons, Fugaku wanted to see ideal shinobi, but he forgot that no one is perfect. Even the eldest son was never like that. Itachi had his own shortcomings, which his father skillfully ignored. Sasuke became a disappointment to his father when he did not show himself to be the same as Nisan. And he completely did not notice that he himself had brought his youngest son to such a state. "Hi, Oto-san," Sasuke said as he entered his father's office. Fugaku raised his head from the papers and looked at his son. "Sasuke." He nodded. "You're finally back. I hope you have satisfied your childishness and thought about your behavior." Sasuke even became interested in what his father would say next. "You must understand that such behavior is unacceptable for the heir of the clan. You must do everything for the prosperity of the clan, and my opinion has not changed regarding your marriage." "Since when did I become the heir?" "All my life I've apparently been a shill for the Hyuga clan." Sasuke grinned, unimpressed by his father's speech. "Are you starting again? I thought we were done." The guy shrugged. "But in 5 years you haven't changed at all, as I thought. You still see in your children only shinobi, clan members, but not people with their own feelings and thoughts. Are you still refusing to get married?" "You don't understand, Oto-san. I don't refuse to get married. Someday, when I am ready for this and when my girlfriend agrees, then I will definitely get married. Whether this happens in a year or never in your life is no longer your concern. I'm not going to be the guarantor of relations between clans. You can say so to Hyuga Hayashi the next time you discuss the upcoming wedding. Look for another Uchiha who will allow you to control your life. I will not participate in this show." "Is this your last word, Sasuke?" Fugaku asked, menacingly. "Last thing. I won't have a wedding with Hyuga. Then you won't be an Uchiha anymore." The senior representative of the clan hit the table. "Do you want to kick me out of the clan, Oto-san?" Sasuke grinned in response. "Just try it. What will happen among our people if they find out that the youngest son of the clan leader has been exiled? What will the village think of you when they find out about this? You were so eager to increase the power of our clan. Do you think no one will know what you tried to do?" "I don't care. I do not intend to see a traitor in the clan. You know, this event will entail the opening of old wounds. Uchihas have never been in good standing with people, am I right? There were many rumors around the village about a failed rebellion, about a conspiracy that was stopped by the Hokage. What happens if the head's youngest son is suddenly expelled? Will people think this is the beginning of a rebellion?" "How do you know all this?" "You'd be surprised how much a child who isn't noticed can know." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm asking you. Are you ready to face the consequences of your actions? Are you ready to turn a blind eye to all your work, the work of Itachi, the clan, in order to kick me out? Do you really need this, Oto-san?" "I don't want to see you, Sasuke. You disappointed me," Fugaku said coldly, to which the younger just grinned. "You won't believe how mutual this is." With these words, he walked out the door, leaving his father in complete mental chaos. Sasuke sighed heavily, shook his head, and went downstairs and went outside. He was visited by a feeling of déjà vu when he saw Itachi on the stairs. It felt like his brother had not changed his position in all 5 years. There was a feeling that they had returned back to the day when their first normal dialogue, starting something new, took place. "I didn't have time to return, and you're already arguing with your father, Otudo?" Itachi grinned, turning his head. Sasuke shook his head and sat down next to him, leaning his back on the railing of the stairs. "Have you been back from your mission for a long time?" 5 minutes ago. Kaa-chan said you were back, so I came out here and waited." "You would still come out here," Nisan said, looking somewhere into the distance. "When we were kids, we always sat here, remember? When you were little, you often brought me here so you could be alone with me, without your parents. I talked about the missions, and you asked a lot of questions. And then everything changed." Sasuke nodded. "You have changed. Life is a complicated thing." Itachi sighed. "What did father say?" "That I am a non-entity, a disappointment." The younger one shrugged. "That I have no place in our clan if I still refuse to marry Hyuga." He wanted to kick me out, but was clearly not prepared for the consequences that would follow this choice. Kick you out? From the clan? Exactly. Sasuke nodded. It seems to me that he ignored half of my words, focusing his attention on my refusal. He doesn't even delve into the reason. You know that I won't allow you to be kicked out. I know, but you shouldn't go against him. I can figure this out myself. You're in love, aren't you? Itachi asked unexpectedly. I've been in love for a long time, Sasuke. At first, I didn't pay attention to those words of yours 5 years ago, but over time I realized that this was really true. I have a girlfriend, Itachi. A long time ago. Is that why you refuse? That's not the only reason. Sasuke closed his eyes. Who is she? You don't tell me who your girlfriend is, Nai-san. Why should I do this? Because I'm your older brother. Do you think that's a good reason? Yes. Itachi said seriously, but a soft half-smile played on his lips. Then I'll upset you, Nai-san. This is Naruto, isn't it? The elder Uchiha suggested. Everything is possible. I know it's her, Sasuke. Trust in it. The younger one grinned. He returned home. And why did you climb into my window? I asked Naruto a logical question when I saw Sasuke lying on his bed. It was quite early in the morning, but none of her family was at home. Minato, of course, was in the residence, but Kushina, as Naruto felt, was in the Uchiha clan. Apparently, she had gone to Mikoto. The older brother, as the girl found out, was at the other end of the village with the team in Shisui, so the house was completely at Naruto's disposal for several hours. After that small but unpleasant quarrel with her brother, they never crossed paths again. Naruto spent the rest of the day in her room, sleeping on a soft bed and sorting out her things afterward. She went down for dinner when Minato and Yoichi had already gone about their business and, honestly, she wasn't avoiding anyone, she was just reading the scrolls with techniques that Jiraiya had given her. While Naruto was reading, she didn't even notice that it was time for dinner, so she went down only when only Kushina was left there. How did everything go yesterday? Asked Naruto. Fugaku didn't tell me anything new. Tried to appeal to my conscience and loyalty to the clan. He still wants me to marry Hyuga. Anger flared up inside Naruto, but it went out as quickly as it appeared. She had long ago learned to control her emotions. Don't freak out, Uzumaki. I'm not freaking out. Otherwise, I don't know you. The Uchiha snorted. When I refused, he got very angry and wanted to kick me out of the clan. The guy chuckled. He failed to do this because he was not ready to face the consequences of his choice. Everything went much better with Ka-chan and Itachi. Nisan has finally accepted the fact that it turns out I have a girlfriend. He even suggested that it could be you. The genius of the clan, what can you say? Naruto chuckled. How about you? Something's upset you, I can see it. I had a fight with Yoichi, nothing else interesting. The girl shrugged. What did he say to you? Sasuke frowned. He wanted to make peace, but obviously after 5 years he still didn't understand anything. Naruto sighed, sorting things out in the closet. The Uchiha sat on the bed, following his girlfriend with his eyes. He called me a monster, to sum up our conversation. At that moment, Naruto was truly disappointed in her brother. He was a smart, capable shinobi, a strong jounin, but he clearly had problems with awareness of his feelings and thoughts. It was as if Yoichi did not want to see anything but his fears of Naruto, of the demon, of all the Jinchuriki. He wants to make peace with his sister, to take a step forward, but until he overcomes his fears and doubts, Naruto saw no point in their dialogue. You know that's not true. What's got you so upset? Naruto felt hands on her waist and a warm, muscular body pressing against her from the back. The Uchiha hugged her and buried his nose in her hair, inhaling the familiar scent. It just reminded me of my childhood, when I didn't understand people's hatred towards me at all. The girl sighed. She turned in her lover's arms and looked at him with her bright blue eyes. Sasuke didn't answer her, but simply leaned down and kissed her. The Uchiha's lips, as always, were dry, slightly chapped, hot and demanding. They still drove her crazy, deprived her of the ability to think coherently, and captured her mind and heart. He ran his tongue over her lips, asking permission to continue. Naruto opened her mouth slightly to let him in. Their tongues intertwined in a hot, but at the same time quivering dance, giving them pleasure and joy, giving rise to passion and desire. Naruto no longer pressed her chest against him, she hugged him, ran her hands along his back, crawled under his shirt, as she always loved to do. Sasuke held the girl's face in his hands, drawing circles on her cheeks with his thumbs. When they pulled away, Uzumaki saw what she had long wanted: anticipation and desire in her lover's eyes. The Uchiha began to kiss her neck, lowering his hands to her waist and lower. At one point, his hands were on Naruto's hips, pulling him closer to him. The girl jumped up and wrapped her legs around Sasuke's hips and pressed her lips to his. The Uchiha grabbed her under the buttocks and walked towards the bed, without stopping the kiss. Naruto kissed him passionately, almost madly. Once they were on the bed, they wasted no time. Naruto ran her hands over her lover's chest, deftly unbuttoning the buttons on his shirt. Sasuke threw off the completely unnecessary thing, and then began to kiss the girl's neck. Naruto opened her mouth slightly when the Uchiha's tongue ran across her collarbone. She ran her hand over his chest and pulled him towards her by the edge of his pants, practically knocking him over on top of her. Sasuke's eyes flashed almost subtly red. Naruto grinned. The girl changed their places in one sharp movement. Now the Uchiha was lying under her. Naruto sat on top of his thighs, feeling how tense her lover was. She grinned slyly and with a couple of movements stripped herself of the top part of her clothing. Sasuke looked at her with a hungry gaze, fixing it on her breasts. He ran his hands over her stomach, waist and, cupping her two breasts with his hands, squeezed her nipples with his fingers. Naruto bit her lip to keep from moaning in pleasure. She moved her hips so that she walked over Sasuke's aroused, demanding attention. The guy's eyes flashed again, and the grip on his chest became stronger. When he had caressed her nipples enough, he rose up and pressed the girl to him, capturing his lips. Naruto moaned as her chest collided with Sasuke's hot chest. As he began to kiss her neck again, Naruto pushed him down onto the pillows, running her hand down her body. She began to go lower, reached his pants, and with a deft movement stripped him of the lower part of his clothes. Then she started kissing his stomach, leaving a huge hickey somewhere on his ribs, where no one would see. Sasuke lay naked in front of her, with bloodshot eyes and burning eyes. Definitely one of the best sights of her life. Naruto took off her shorts and panties and lay down completely naked on top of him. Sasuke turned her over onto her back, ending up on top of her. Uzumaki grinned, and then wrapped her hand around his hard, running her fingers over the red head, slightly squeezing and unclenching the shaft. The girl brushed her lover's face with confident movements, bringing him a lot of pleasure and awakening in him more and more desire. Sasuke bit his lip to keep from moaning and pressed his head against his lover's shoulder. Uzumaki acted slowly, deftly playing with her fingers, touching the sensitive head. "You're playing with me, Naruto," the guy growled. Naruto grinned and whispered in his ear, "Stop me." Having chosen the moment, Sasuke ran his hand over the girl's stomach, going lower and lower, practically touching her sensitive spot with his fingers. Naruto squeezed. Sasuke pushed harder as he ran along the wet slit, touched her labia, and began massaging her clitoris with precise movements. The Uzumaki moaned. "What do you want, Naruto?" he whispered to her, giving her pleasure with his fingers. The girl didn't answer, letting go. Lover and arching. Sasuke understood everything. He again ran his fingers along the slit and felt a small hole into which he inserted two fingers at once. Naruto screamed, either in pain or pleasure. The Uchiha did not torment the girl for long, stopping caressing her with his fingers. Taking advantage of the moment, Naruto turned the guy onto his back again, settling on his hips. Crazy looks, rapid breathing, wandering hands, all this spoke of the storm that was hidden inside the couple. Walking her buttocks over her lover's, Naruto grinned. She rose a little, feeling for the organ with her hand, and then directed it straight towards herself. Slowly lowering and rising to Dadi, Uzumaki arched. Sasuke stood up on the bed and grabbed her under her back, pressing her to him. Naruto wrapped her arms around him and kissed him on the lips as the boy began to move his hips. "My." The Uchiha whispered possessively, tearing away from his lover's lips. He fell to her neck, putting a huge hickey, which immediately began to heal. In a moment of sweet pleasure, their bodies and souls merged together. They merged in a single movement, a single impulse, asking each other for more. Everything swam before Uzumaki's eyes, bright flashes appeared, and a spasm ran through her body. She moaned quietly when the Uchiha turned her onto her back and hung on top of her. A few more pushes, and he came out of her, and the girl herself grabbed him. Hands. She began to move it with quick movements, and soon the Uchiha poured out on her stomach, falling on top and breathing heavily. A moment of peace and bliss has arrived. Naruto hugged her lover to her, who buried his nose in her neck and tickled her skin with his breath. Uzumaki ran her hand through his hair, pulling it back a little so that he looked into her eyes. Sasuke raised his head and looked at his lover. He ran his hand over her face and then kissed her, softly and tenderly, conveying all his feelings through this touch of his lips. "We need a shower, Sasuke," the girl said quietly, breaking the kiss after about a minute. The Uchiha chuckled and rolled into an empty seat next to the Uzumaki. Naruto carefully rose from the bed to pick up their clothes from the floor. "In an hour, we'll have a very exciting training session." Sasuke rolled his eyes. Naruto grabbed her and her boyfriend's clothes from the floor and walked towards the bathroom to clean up. "Are you with me?" She grinned, looking in his direction. Not that the Uchiha wanted to refuse. They arrived at the training ground when Shikamaru, Yoichi, Shisui, and their team were already there. Naruto wondered about the reason for such a large gathering. Uzumaki and Uchiha approached their comrade, who wisely slept under a tree and did not participate at all in the conversation of teammate. Shino, Shisui, and Yoichi were arguing about something, while Hinata and Chuji stood aside and just looked at it all. "What's going on here?" Uzumaki asked a completely logical question, sitting down next to Shikamaru. Sasuke leaned his shoulder on the same tree and folded his arms across his chest, expressing skepticism about what was happening with his whole appearance. "They are arguing about something that I don't want to know at all," Nara responded. "What are they even doing here?" Sasuke asked the second logical question. "You should ask the Hokage who sent them here." The guy sighed. Naruto rolled her eyes. After the shower, which went very quickly, Naruto and Sasuke went downstairs. Uzumaki asked if her lover had breakfast, to which he answered positively. The girl shook her head and took tomatoes out of the refrigerator to make Sasuke's salad. When the Uchiha, with a clear conscience and a full stomach, gave the plate to Naruto, she chuckled and began to wash it. Just at that moment, Kushina returned to the house, who was very surprised to find someone other than her child in the kitchen. She smiled sincerely at Sasuke when he greeted her and asked him about the trip. He, due to his taciturnity, said only a few words, and then Kushina herself took over the initiative of the dialogue. She talked about how she went to Mikoto, how she and Naruto grew during this time, how the village changed. Sasuke and Naruto listened to this for about 10 minutes when, saying that they were late, they left, and the woman wished them good luck one last time. "I've only heard so much chatter from you, Uzumaki," said the Uchiha as they left the house. The girl just snorted and rolled her eyes. The Hokage, Kakashi, Obito, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Itachi all arrived 15 minutes after the couple. As soon as everyone heard Minato's voice, the arguing stopped and everyone rose to their feet and walked towards him. Naruto wondered why there were so many people here. Shrek's take it. "Namikaze has decided to give you a serious test," Kurama growled. "He will watch your every action, every technique. Don't show too much." "I'm so tired of all this," the girl said with all her heart. Naruto, Sasuke, Shikamaru, today you will show me your teamwork. I will look at your interaction and your strength. I will determine the limit of permissible missions. As Tsunade and Jiraiya said, your rank does not match your abilities. I want to make sure of this. Minato said. You will fight against Itachi, Yoichi, and Kakashi. What the others have forgotten here, I don't know, and I don't want to know. Hokage-sama, we were in training, and Shursui decided to show the team this work to compare. Yoichi shrugged. And we came to look at our students. Obito said, generalizing himself and the Sanins. The latter nodded in unison and grinned. Hokage-sama, do you want to pit inexperienced Chunin against 3 experienced Jounin? Shursui asked a question. Yes. Namikaze answered calmly. Well, Itachi's friend sighed. It will be a breathtaking spectacle. All the extra people positioned themselves in the trees, leaving only 6 people at the training ground. Naruto stood opposite Yoichi, Sasuke stood opposite Itachi, and Shikamaru stood opposite Kakashi. The 2 teams exchanged tense glances as Hatake decided to open his Sharingan. I can't do without this, right? Kakashi asked. When Minato announced the start, everyone remained standing in their places. The opponents looked at each other tensely, obviously assessing each person's abilities. Naruto grinned. She didn't want to hang around here until the evening. And made her move. After making a series of seals, she placed her hand on the ground. The fire flared up and the girl had to jump back. A wall of fire appeared between the 2 teams and grew larger and larger. Team 10 disappeared from sight of the Jounin as the flames flared up. There was no way out. It spread further and further across the training ground until it reached the protective barrier left by Naruto. Everyone was very surprised, because no one felt any chakra foci. Uzumaki learned this technique several years ago, and trained it in the summoning world with the foxes. This fuinjutsu with several seals limited the territory, preventing techniques from going beyond it and protecting the surrounding world. A similar barrier was used by the Kage on their homeworld during the war, but Naruto had to modify it to make it what she intended. Before arriving at the training ground, Naruto and Sasuke walked around its perimeter, and the girl placed the 4 necessary seals, thus protecting the surrounding territories. The Jounin had to act. Yoichi and Kakashi made a series of seals to use water techniques and put out the flames. As the fire died down, the 3 shinobi saw Team 10, Naruto, placing her hand on the ground, smirking. Sasuke stood with glowing eyes, and Shikamaru stood with his hands folded for his clan's technique. The Jounin were about to move, but they couldn't. It was as if they were pinned to the spot. You don't think you can hold us back, do you? Yoichi asked, freeing himself from Naruto's technique. Black seals from Nisan's legs rushed back to the youngest, but everything was not so simple. As soon as the guy took a step, he fell under Shikamaru's technique as Shadow Hand squeezed his throat, pressing harder and harder. We didn't even hope for it. The younger Uchiha grinned, placing his hands on the shoulders of his comrades an instant, and all 3 disappeared into a white mist. The technique on Namikaze's neck loosened and he breathed a sigh of relief. Did they trick us? Itachi asked the question, not expecting an answer. And so it was clear that the kids were hiding somewhere and waiting for the right moment. How could the clones repeat the technique of the Nara clan? Yoichi asked a question. Kakashi and Itachi looked at him. There was no technique, Yoichi. My dear Otudo put a pretty strong genjutsu on you. The Uchiha chuckled. Very subtly and skillfully worked, even an experienced Jounin did not notice the illusion. They left when the fire was raging. And they left very professionally. They picked the moment when we were distracted and replaced ourselves with clones. Kakashi reasoned, sincerely admiring his students. I don't see their chakra. Itachi scanned the area. Team 10 was 100 meters away, positioned in a tree, watching the Jounin. None of them had sensory abilities, so they still had a few minutes. Each of those 3 were experienced shinobi, and they would soon discover them. You take on your brothers, I take on Kakashi, said Shikamaru. They want to see our abilities, that's what they will see. We work according to the second scheme. During the trip, the Chunin worked hard as a team. They developed several specific schemes for conducting team combat, each of which had its own characteristics. The second scheme was intended to mislead the enemy about their teamwork. The scheme itself had several sub-items related to the number of opponents. But working separately in this team was never separate. The shinobi acted in such a way as to lure opponents into a trap. Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru appeared at the training ground at the same time. And very impressive. They stood opposite their opponents and simultaneously began to make seals. 3 fireballs flew towards the jounin, but everyone had a different reaction. Kakashi left as a replacement. Itachi met his brother's attack with exactly the same technique, which caused incredible heat to spread across the clearing, and Yoichi inflated a huge water ball, upon collision with which Naruto's technique created steam. White clots rose into the sky, and Naruto, increasing the power of the ball, took her brother away from her comrades. When they were at a sufficient distance to fight, Naruto put away the technique. Yoichi decided to keep up with his sister. He made a series of seals, and 2 lightning bolts burst out of his hands and rushed straight at the girl. She had to jump into the air and make seals as she went. Her brother mastered water and lightning, therefore, wind techniques would be the best option. Naruto landed close to where the lightning struck and immediately knocked her brother down with her wind technique. Yoichi flew several meters due to the strong current of wind, but regained his feet. He literally launched a bright bolt of lightning at his sister, which was stopped by the air wall. Naruto and Yoichi ran at each other, pulling out kunai. The sound of metals meeting spread across the clearing. Suddenly, the place where the kunai touched sparkled, and a blue color surrounded Naruto's weapon. The older brother chuckled, but said nothing, parrying the blows with his Immortal. During her time in the conscript world, Uzumaki mastered the fox fighting style. These creatures were cunning and resourceful, so most of their techniques were based on this. They deceived, confused the enemy, misled him, and then won. This is exactly what the young Jinchuriki had to learn when she began to master this style. But she did not completely adopt it. The current combat system combined several others. She had the chaos of Naruto, a little of the toads, and she took the cunning from the foxes. Her current style was unlike any other. Yoichi lunged as Naruto became distracted, causing her kunai to fall from her hand. Nisan grinned and approached his sister, intending to signal his victory. But it was not there. Uzumaki crouched when the weapon missed her head a centimeter, then rolled and ended up behind Namikaze. She grinned and hit his leg with her palm. Yoichi fell next to his sister. The guy wanted to kick her, but Naruto deftly dodged and rose to her feet. The jounin looked into his sister's eyes as he made seals with one hand. Uzumaki grinned if he expected to do this unnoticed, then his attempt was unsuccessful. Foxes have always been taught to pay attention to the slightest change in the enemy, and now Yoichi, having begun to make seals, tensed his right hand too much, which did not escape his sister's eyes. When water bullets flew at Naruto, she wasn't surprised. She had to escape from the attack. Using all her flexibility and resourcefulness, her brother was aiming right at the target. The technique ended and Naruto went on the offensive. She glanced briefly at her companions and then grinned. Moving behind her brother at high speed, she caught him by surprise. The guy managed to jerk to the right before Naruto's foot hit him in the side. He grinned and sent the girl flying with a powerful blow. Uzumaki landed on her back, rolling on the ground for several meters. A large scratch appeared on her face, which immediately began to heal thanks to kurama. "Be careful, brainless one. Watch your feet." The fox growled in his head. "I'd like to try it myself, Databeo." Naruto exclaimed, launching air bullets at her brother. At this rate, she began to push him towards the rest of the jounin. Sasuke and Itachi could be said to be testing the power of each other's eyes. The elder stubbornly wanted to drive his Otudo into an illusion from which he would not be able to find a way out, but the power of Sasuke's eyes surprised him. The younger one always dispelled Jinjutsu and used his own no less powerful. Itachi even wondered how far his brother would go in his attempts to catch the clan's genius with his own eyes. He really liked what he saw, because Sasuke showed himself to be very worthy of his clan. Not many at his age can master the Sharingan at such a level. Itachi noticed how his brother monitors his movements, notices the slightest change in his condition, chakra, muscles. The younger brother managed to monitor everything, applied genjutsu, and copy movements. However, his brother was strong not only with his eyes, but also with his techniques. Sasuke was effective against both lightning and fire, sometimes catching Itachi by surprise. They engaged in taijutsu when the elder sensed something was wrong. Only the instincts of a shinobi and long training helped him escape from the lightning discharge that Sasuke intended to send to his arm. "Do you want to kill me?" Itachi asked indifferently then. "Only hurt." Sasuke grinned in response, starting, unnoticed by his brother, to push him into the center of the clearing. Shikamaru also did not lag behind his comrades. He persistently pressed his sensei, sometimes causing him some confusion. Kakashi tracked every move of the heir of the Nara clan in order to react in time to his attack. Shikamaru used the elements of earth and fire to fend off Hataki's attacks, did not allow him to hide in the trees, and kept him in the shadows. Once Kakashi was almost riddled with shadow stakes, which were clearly not something painless and rosy. Only the Sharingan and training helped him avoid the terrible fate of being impaled like meat. In taijutsu, Shikamaru was clearly inferior to his sensei, but his intelligence compensated for this. Nara came up with such ingenious moves that Kakashi could only be surprised and continue to fight. And Hataki could not let go of the thought that not everything was as simple with these children as they might have initially thought. There is no doubt that the Chunin have become incredibly powerful. Their strength didn't match their rank, that's for sure, but there was something wrong with their teamwork. Kakashi personally raised them and knew that these guys were an example for other teams in this regard. Now they showed exactly the opposite. They had no interaction, they did not support each other, did not help, as they always had. Was this some kind of plan? Or is everything not as smooth in Team 10 as they wanted to show? Did something happen during the trip? Or did their connection weaken while they were apart for a year? Kakashi had a lot of questions running through his head, but he wasn't distracted from the fight with his student. However, Hataki, fighting off frequent fire and earth attacks and using his techniques, completely did not notice how the young genius was pushing him towards the center of the training ground. At one point, when the three jounin were in the right positions, Naruto made her seals. A transparent wall formed around the men, preventing them from going beyond the seal. Shikamaru, Naruto, and Sasuke stood on three sides of the barrier, looking at their opponents with grins. "You lured us into a trap." Itachi smiled, sincerely proud of the scheme that the Chunin had pulled off. They made us believe that everyone was fighting for themselves when the team had a definite plan. The jounin really let their guard down when they fought only one shinobi and forgot about the other two. "This is a strong barrier," Hataki said, looking at Naruto thoughtfully. "Can it be broken through?" "You can try, Kakashi-sensei." The girl grinned. "You had a plan." "We get it," Yoichi said. "What if it didn't work?" "Well, your chakra would have run out in 7 minutes, Nai-san. You didn't notice how I put a seal on your leg that takes away your chakra," Uzumaki said. Yoichi cursed as he clearly missed this point. "This is already -1 player. You can't hold this barrier forever. It does not mean your victory," Itachi said, smiling. "Your chakra is not infinite, Naruto." "You're right, but at any moment I can close the top of the barrier by making a dome out of it." The jounin looked up. "How much air do you think you have?" "You know how to surprise, Naruto-chan." Itachi smiled. He glanced briefly at his younger brother, who was looking at everything that was happening here with composure. He didn't even react to Nisan's gaze, although he saw him perfectly. "I like people who know how to surprise." "I'm sure you have a lot of surprises too, Itachi-san." The Jinchuriki grinned. "Don't you want to let us go, Naruto?" Kakashi sighed. Shikamaru just grinned. She won't let go until the Hokage says to stop the fight. Nara said, stretching out his vowels. You yourself said to pay attention to the little things. Kakashi-sensei. I taught it on my own. The copyman muttered. Just at that moment, all the spectators descended onto the training ground. Tsunade and Jiraiya watched proudly as their students pulled out their favorite scheme again. The Sannin personally fell for it several times when sparring. How this happened, they could not say, but the fact remained that these Chunin were breeding them and driving them into a trap. And that's not all the schemes were shown. On particularly boring days, these kids could sit for hours and discuss strategies. When their strength became greater, more opportunities appeared. Naruto intensively began to train her sensory skills and Fuinjutsu, completed or altered seals, and added something. All this was reflected in their schemes and plans. The Sannins were seriously surprised by these shinobi. Later they thought about joint techniques. Tsunade and Jiraiya supported their idea and tried to help, so soon these shinobi mastered joint techniques honestly. They were terrifying and destructive. Naruto, Shikamaru and Sasuke were truly creating something amazing and taking teamwork to a new, higher level. I've seen enough. Minato frowned. You can let them go. Naruto had nothing against this, so the barrier fell. She also approached her brother to remove the seal from him. Frankly, I'm surprised. You were able to defeat the strongest jounin of the village. This is worthy of praise. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Team 10 said at the same time. Obito looked at his students like a proud mother at her child, smiled, and his eyes shone with something terrible. Come see me tomorrow. We will decide what we will do with you. Minato nodded to himself. Things can't wait, it's time for me to go. We are with you, said Jiraiya. He and his wife placed their hands on the Hokage's shoulders, and together they disappeared in a clap of thunder. As they say, it's not a Hokage thing to walk. Uzumaki chuckled. For what? If you have techniques and chakra. Kurama said reasonably. But the golden feet won't get blistered. He added in a sarcastic voice full of venom. Naruto just chuckled at Minato's attitude towards Namake's, but didn't say anything else. It was instructive. Shino spoke up. And interesting. You work well together, although I thought that. Hinata stopped mid-sentence, and Naruto smiled at her encouragingly. Do you remember that we have training today? We're leaving on a mission tomorrow, so we need to finish early. Yoichi asked his team. They nodded at the same time. All this time, Naruto tried hard to ignore Itachi's glares at herself and Sasuke. He looked so strangely and smiled slightly that it became creepy. Naruto still remembered Itachi from his home world, so that made those looks even worse. We're going to lunch, Obito announced. You pay, Obito-sensei. Sasuke grinned. Naruto and Shikamaru nodded in support. Kakashi looked up at the sky, once again asking where he sinned in his past life, since he had such a team. Again. Well, you suggested. Shikamaru reasoned logically. You have stories from the trip. Uchiha found a benefit. We have an interesting story about how Jiraiya and Tsunade remained as collateral in the same bar. Shikamaru chuckled. Sasuke also couldn't help but grin at the memories, and Naruto burst out laughing. Since Obito-sensei is paying, then, Nii-san, you can come with us. Obito sighed heavily. These kids will bankrupt him. And then Ren will finish it off. And what did he get himself into? Let's call all of Konoha. Sensei said quietly. Kakashi patted him on the shoulder to reassure him. Shursui, are you with us? Itachi asked. Ichikuan, I would love to. Especially at Obito's expense. But things don't wait. Itachi's best friend exclaimed sadly. His entire team sighed heavily and Yoichi shook his head. Then go ahead. Ramen can't wait. Naruto exclaimed. She smiled cheerfully at Sasuke as he began to chuckle at Obito. Team 8 couldn't help but grin too. Yoichi rolled his eyes at this behavior of strong and experienced shinobi. It seems Obito will never offer his team lunch again. But everyone, of course, knew that he would not be able to resist and would do it again. Several weeks have passed since Naruto and Sasuke returned to the village. The shinobi successfully adapted to the village and entered into their mode. If there were no missions, then Team 10 spent time at the training ground. They trained, talked, discussed missions and assignments. Sometimes they were joined by other teams, often it was Team 7, which caused Shikamaru to be teased by his teammates. Nara just rolled his eyes and snorted, but of course he never took anything seriously. With Team 7, the work was very noisy. These shinobi constantly argued, spoke loudly, and told something. Naruto, honestly, was very tired of this, although, in fact, she had to get used to it. Sakura was quite quiet, but she kept her eyes on Sasuke. The latter stubbornly ignored her, although he perfectly noticed the girl's gaze, and she only sighed heavily. Ino tried hard to attract Shikamaru's attention, but it was clear that all her attempts were ignored. Nara was even more invincible than the Uchiha. Naruto looked at it all with obvious condescension and some amusement, knowing full well that these guys were loyal to their girls and they didn't care about Team 7. Still, she wasn't sure of this. Sasuke never paid attention to Sakura and was faithful to her in all his lives, and she knew Shikamaru like a peeler, and understood that for him, loyalty in a relationship was the most important criterion, although he tried hard to disguise it as your laziness. Well, Sasuke and Shikamaru's girls were also fighting, strong, rather determined shinobi, so someone for a small attempt to look in the direction of other girls could lose an important part of their body, and the other girls themselves could receive psychological trauma. Kiba also watched this circus with pleasure, mentally praying that his teammates would one day outgrow their crushes. Although many years have passed, and Sakura is still drooling over Sasuke, and Ino, although she has switched her attention to someone else, continues to behave like a teenager in love. The Inuzuka glanced at Naruto, and they exchanged knowing glances as Shikamaru and Sasuke were busy ignoring everyone and everything. They saw each other less often with the 8th team. Shino, Chuji, and Hinata came several times when the shinobi were at the training ground, but for the most part Yoichi and Sasuke harnessed their charges to do some kind of work. And it was easier to work with this team, they were not as noisy and in love as Team 7. Kakashi and Obito left on some mission on personal behalf of the Hokage a week after Naruto and Sasuke returned. Minato then called them into his office and told and showed them something for several hours, and then sent them on a mission to an unknown country. They only warned their team and sped off that day. Speaking of missions, Minato made Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru a special purpose team. No one knew about this except Hatake and Obito, who were appointed commanders on their missions, and the Sannin. On days when they were not required to perform any special tasks, they performed ordinary ones, accompanied, examined, carried something to other villages. Ordinary missions of ordinary shinobi. However, several times the secrecy and urgency of the mission was required, which Minato could not trust to anyone other than his students. Naruto suspected that it was Kakashi and Obito who were the Hokage's most trusted men. Obviously, Minato correctly made conclusions about their abilities and decided that it was not good to send talented shinobi on ordinary chunin missions. Namikaze was clearly unsure about Naruto and her control, but still decided to make this decision after considering all the details. He talked with Tsunade and Jiraiya, extracted from them everything they know about Jinchuriki. After negotiations with the Sannins, who assured Minato of the safety and correctness of this decision, and Kakashi and Obito, he summoned Team 10, appointing them a special purpose team. He also said that the classification of secrecy on their missions will not be present often. But it will be, so they must understand the responsibility and importance. In principle, life returned to normal. There were no quarrels or anything else in Naruto's family. The parents did not touch their youngest daughter. They said practically nothing to her. Ka-chan sometimes tried to establish contact, but without much success. Yoichi began to avoid Naruto with renewed vigor. They only crossed paths when teams 10 and 8 spent time together. At home, her brother did not catch her eye, and if Uzumaki had not felt his chakra, she would have thought that he disappeared on missions. The girl herself also did not want to communicate with Nisan. In principle, she was Violet, but she definitely did not intend to avoid him. The only strange thing about this time was Itachi's behavior. This shinobi seemed to be inflamed with brotherly feelings and decided to fill all the gaps with his actions. Itachi literally began to find out who Sasuke's beloved was. That dialogue with his younger brother gave him food for thought. He began to believe that Ototo was dating his teammate. Itachi may have been a genius, but without proper evidence, even he could not claim this. He tried to quietly follow them into Ichiraku, where they went after the battle, caught the team at the training ground, trying to catch the moment, but all his attempts were in vain. Naruto and Sasuke didn't show their relationship in any way. And not to say that they were hiding. Why do they need this, exactly? The couple simply behaved as usual, the way they behaved in their home world when they started dating. Everyone found out in due time. No one caught them or saw them kissing. Naruto and Sasuke weren't making it easy for Itachi, and he was still unsure about their relationship. Therefore, Nisan began to simply observe his younger brother, to see where he went and why. Naruto and Shikamaru were sincerely amused when Sasuke told them about how Itachi followed him straight to the forest of death, not suspecting that he had been burned. He only realized this when the younger one stopped and looked straight in his direction, sighing heavily. It was epic, really. It was as if the elder Uchiha suddenly lost all his affairs and missions, because there was a feeling of his presence constantly. Naruto, hi. And now the heir appeared in front of the Jinchuriki when she was alone at the training ground. Shikamaru and Sasuke were supposed to arrive in about 20 minutes, and Naruto wanted to devote this time to meditation, but, obviously, her wish was not destined to come true. Itachi-san. The girl bowed politely. She felt an obvious curiosity emanating from him, so she looked at him with interest. Is there something you wanted to ask? Yes. I didn't deny the genius of the clan. Naruto nodded. You're dating Sasuke, am I right? Uzumaki raised her eyebrows and shook her head, grinning. Obviously, Itachi himself was already tired of running after his younger brother, so he decided to find out from another source. Sasuke gave me too vague an answer to this question. Do you think I'll give you another one? The girl chuckled. I count on it, Naruto. He said. How about training? Until your team arrived. Why not? Uzumaki shrugged. She examined Itachi from head to toe and chuckled. In the Jounin vest, he looked very organic and correct. She remembers all the meetings with Itachi in her home world, the last of which ended with a promise to look after Sasuke. Naruto never understood what could have happened to Itachi in this world, that he put the clan first. She always knew that Sasuke was the beloved and only younger brother, whose well-being the heir always put in first place. But in this world, she experienced a break in the pattern. Itachi was not the same as she had seen him for several years. She did not accept and did not intend to accept such an attitude towards Sasuke from her older brother, but she understood him. However, Naruto sincerely wished for Sasuke to have a family. The man truly deserved it. And if his father and mother, in fact, could not give him this, then at least Itachi. She hoped that the relationship between the brothers would someday become different. Warm, trusting. Sasuke and Itachi, more than anyone else, deserve this time when they have each other, and no one bothers them. And seeing how the elder is worried about his Otudo, she really gets the feeling that this moment will come someday. Naruto was the first to make her move in the sparring. She made a series of seals and launched air bullets at her opponent. Itachi, of course, deftly avoided the attack, jumping into the air and launching phoenix flowers at the same time. The Uzumaki somersaulted backwards to avoid a dangerous hit, and then jumped, launching a kunai. They didn't reach Itachi, and stuck into the ground as Naruto sank to her feet. Itachi stood opposite her and grinned. When Uzumaki straightened up, the enemy was already running towards her with daggers in his hands. The Jinchuriki chuckled and took out her favorite weapon from her pouch, imbuing it with wind chakra. When the metal met, there was a clang and sparks flew, and the two opponents stood opposite each other and grinned. Itachi intended to hit the girl with his right hand, but Naruto outwitted him. She made a sharp lunge to the left, grabbing the hand flying at her and placing it behind her opponent's back. The Uchiha chuckled. "Not bad, Naruto," he said before dissolving into crows that began to fly around the girl. Uzumaki grinned and abruptly cut off the flow of chakra in her body. The Uchiha's genjutsu subsided, and Naruto found herself pressed back against Itachi's body, who held a dagger near her throat. "But not enough. Did you really think that I wouldn't recognize your genjutsu?" the girl said in response when 3 clones with Razengans appeared behind Itachi. "Do you really think this will help you?" the Uchiha mimicked her. Naruto grinned. She jerked to the right, and the knife lightly cut the skin of her neck as she kicked Itachi in the knee and elbowed him in the side. She fell down and rolled on the ground, abruptly rising to her feet. After making a series of seals, she chuckled as the elder found himself bound hand and foot. The kunai that Naruto had thrown at the very beginning were equipped with seals for the binding technique. It was spectacular. "We can't do it any other way," the girl chuckled. A sharp surge of chakra, and the binding technique subsides, and the Naruto clones that stood next to the Uchiha dissolved into white fog. Itachi made a series of seals and inflated a huge fireball, which met exactly the same one on its way. The two techniques collided, creating terrible heat, but neither wanted to give in to the other. This battle continued for about a minute until Naruto removed the technique and dissolved into white mist. In its place, only a burnt piece of wood remained, which was fried by Itachi's ball. The Jinchuriki herself found herself behind the enemy, firing fire bullets at him. The Uchiha turned around, but almost immediately jumped into the air to avoid being hit by the technique. In the end, both opponents stood opposite each other. "Will you answer my question, Naruto?" Itachi asked. "Do you know who my brother's girlfriend is? If you tell me why you need this information." She grinned in response. "I want to protect Sasuke," the Uchiha simply said. "You must understand that he no longer needs protection. He is not a little boy, but an adult shinobi." "But he's my Otuto," the genius of the clan retorted. "And my duty has always been, is, and will be his protection. Itachi-san, I care about Sasuke, and I want only the best for him, you must understand that. Our team pulled him out of the abyss of despair into which he plunged, because of your communication." Naruto nodded her head. "At that time, to be honest, Sasuke and I only had our team and nothing else. In Shikamaru, Kakashi-sensei, and Obito-sensei we found what we were missing: support, understanding, care, and respect. We have become a family, so I will not allow Sasuke to experience pain again." "What do you mean? You Uchihas are too proud to admit that you are hurt." "So Sasuke kept everything to himself, but I saw and felt how he was worried about the bad relationship between you. It was you, Itachi-san, who were always an example for Sasuke. It was your opinion that was important to him. It almost broke once, because of this, and I don't want to put it back together again." The girl sighed. "He is not a naive boy. Yes, he is capable of figuring out his life himself, but it will hurt him if he finds out that you betrayed him again." "I'm not going to betray him. Never again." Itachi frowned. "I made a mistake when I thought that with such an attitude towards him, Sasuke would feel better. I wanted to protect him from the influence of his father, the clan, so that he could grow with his own mind, but I only made it worse. For Fugaku, I became the ideal son, and Sasuke faded into the background. I wanted to fix it, but it was too late. Ototo hated me. He never felt such feelings towards you." Naruto shook her head. She really was telling the truth. Sasuke never hated his older brother. He was deeply attached to him, but Itachi's behavior left him genuinely disappointed and dissatisfied. "We talked a lot with him, and you should just trust me." You have to understand me, I want the best for Sasuke because he deserves it. The girl repeated her own words. I want it too. Itachi agreed. I want to correct my mistakes. And protect him. If you want to protect him, don't betray him anymore. Naruto sighed. I may suffer, I may hurt, but I will never be able to see Sasuke break again. She shared with the Jounin. I see now, Naruto. Itachi smiled. For the first time during their conversation, he smiled sincerely. Only a loving girl is capable of saying such words. I'm convinced that you are the one. Naruto shook her head. I see that you love my Otuto, that you protect him, that he is important to you. That's all I wanted to know about Sasuke's girlfriend. I won't deny it, there's no point. Naruto shrugged. Who else knows? Shikamaru. The girl answered. We have never hidden, but you must understand that personal life is private so that they don't chatter about it. I understand. Itachi nodded his head. You're a worthy girl, and I'm glad he has you. It's worth going against the clan for your sake. Itachi-san, Sasuke went against the clan, against his father, not for my sake. He did this for his own sake. The Jinchuriki shook her head. I know. Itachi smiled. But you shouldn't underestimate your importance to him. Itachi-san. Since we've got everything figured out, just call me Itachi. I hate those honorific suffixes. Naruto heard laughter for the first time, the real laughter of the clan's genius. You are older than me, stronger and higher in status. The girl shook her head. I'm only 5 years older, I would argue about stronger, and status doesn't play any role for me. You are important to my brother, and that means you are important to me, Naruto. Itachi came closer to her and tapped her forehead with 2 fingers. Uzumaki looked at this shinobi with a mixture of surprise and admiration, seeing in him a piece of the Itachi whom she had met many years ago in her home world. I'm glad we came to an agreement. The girl grinned, pulling herself together. I think I'm starting to understand what Sasuke sees in you. The guy shook his head. Naruto laughed heartily, feeling relieved. Perhaps these brothers will be able to get closer after all. Did you just talk to him? Sasuke asked, raising his eyebrows. Naruto shrugged and nodded. Naruto, conversations with you are never easy. What is true is not a lie. Shikamaru put in his 2 cents, lazily tossing the kunai in his hand. Then in one swift motion, he sent it flying and the weapon flew next to Naruto's head, brushing her hair. She looked at her comrade with a frown and snorted. He knows that we are dating. And he asked to call him simply Itachi, without suffixes. The girl sighed. She was not going to go into details of the conversation with the heir, simply because she did not see the point in it. Is that all I need to know? The Uchiha frowned, folding his arms over his chest. Or are you hiding something? I hide nothing. Our conversation did not carry a large information load. He was worried about you, but now I think he won't haunt you anymore. Itachi found out everything he wanted. Naruto sighed. And in general, when did I hide something from you? You are our secrecy, shinobi. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Is there something you don't like? The Uchiha narrowed his eyes. Shikamaru watched with unprecedented interest the beginning of another quarrel between 2 comrades, which always ended in something funny or exciting. In Shikamaru's memory, they had never had a serious fight. Of course, this couple quickly flared up and could start arguing over any little thing, but their quarrels never went far. More often than not, they ended in a small sparring session in which the 2 managed to sort out all their differences, or in a sarcastic comment to which one of them could not find an answer. Naruto and Sasuke were interesting to watch. When Shikamaru learned their secret, he was somewhat puzzled by their relationship. How could such different people have been dating for several years? But then he realized, these 2 shinobi were as different as they were the same. Naruto and Sasuke were connected by years, events, war, and strong feelings. Initially it was loneliness, fear, hatred, but later love, care. Their relationship at different times was filled with different emotions and feelings, but there was always understanding and respect in them. This is one of the most important points on which their relationship was built. And Shikamaru watched with interest as they showed their affection for each other. He began to observe them, because the only definitions that he could choose to describe their relationship were friends, comrades. The journey opened his eyes to many things. Nara began to notice things that he had not seen before their revelation. Something that no one could see unless they looked closely. Sasuke cared for Naruto as much as she cared for him. He didn't show it explicitly, but it all showed up in small, insignificant actions. He'll give her sharpened kunai when she forgets. But he will carry the sleeping bag when Naruto stares at something and loses it. Sasuke might grumble and be skeptical of Uzumaki's ideas, but if it was important to her, he would support her. All this was not striking, but this was precisely what showed the Uchiha's true attitude towards his beloved. Naruto wasn't much different from her boyfriend in that regard. She didn't say sweet words to him, didn't take him by the hand, didn't kiss him, but she always brought him his favorite salad, monitored his sleep, brought warm clothes, which the Uchiha, due to his stubbornness, did not take, saying that he would not freeze. Of course, there were warming techniques, but Naruto still preferred to have warm things in her backpack for Sasuke. These things were as insignificant and unnoticeable to others as they were important to these two. At the very beginning of the journey, when Shikamaru essentially had to get to know his comrades all over again, he realized how much he had been missing. How he missed some gestures, glances, considering them a sign of friendship. At that time, he realized that this was completely wrong. Their views and special gestures combined support and understanding. They literally felt each other's mood and knew what the other needed at such a time. Over time, Shikamaru also learned to understand and sense changes in the mood of his comrades, but for this couple everything was on a deeper level. Nara remembers one moment from the trip that made him look differently at the relationships of his comrades. That day, they walked somewhere near the country of lightning. The Sanins were discussing some technique that must be shared with the students, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru walked behind them. The genius noticed that his teammate was immersed in her thoughts and did not pay attention to those around her. And this happened for several days. He then glanced at Sasuke, who understood him without words. The comrades fell behind Naruto a little to talk. The girl didn't even notice. The Uchiha then said that his girlfriend has a lot of memories, both good and bad, and sometimes she needs to be alone with herself. Except for Kurama, who is always with her. He said she had a lot to think about and should be given time. The next day, Naruto was herself again, but Nara began to think Sasuke, without words, without any signs, understood what was wrong with the girl and what she needed. It was definitely something special. Shikamaru didn't see them kiss or hug. They were not fans of publicity. He understood this from the very beginning. But in all 4 years, the only show of tenderness on Naruto's part was a kiss on the cheek. Then they were sitting in a hotel room, it seems, in the country of Earth, and Sasuke was grumbling because he didn't have time to eat his favorite tomatoes. His mood was clearly below zero because of this, but Naruto was cheerful and cheerful. She chuckled at her lover, and then, when his grumbling reached its highest point, she kissed him on the cheek. The Uchiha, of course, did not stop being indignant, but he reduced his ardor and even somehow became cheerful, if such a word can be used towards Sasuke. The moment wasn't anything significant, but it was definitely interesting, and it was very well etched in Shikamaru's memory. Another quarrel between the couple was interrupted by the appearance of Team 9, led by Guy. This shinobi, along with Lee, as always, radiated unprecedented optimism and were very noisy. Tenten and Niji walked behind them with bored faces, obviously already accustomed to such active behavior of these people. "This is Team 10. Rock Lee exclaimed, instantly appearing next to Naruto. "Naruto-chan, I heard that you returned to the village, but we never met. I'm glad to finally see you, you've changed so much." The green man chattered. "Naruto." Might Guy appeared after Lee. "My eternal rival was talking about you and your team." I remember you at the Chunin exam. You were very strong. Naruto very much doubted that Kakashi-sensei actually told this shinobi anything, but decided not to say anything on this matter. I'm sure you've become even stronger now. Someday, we should have a sparring match between Team 10 and Team Gaia. Oh, sensei, what a good idea! Lee exclaimed. Sasuke wisely stepped aside towards Shikamaru, who was approached by Neji and Tenten. The shinobi exchanged nods and began to observe what was happening with blank expressions. Team 10 is very strong. We need to train a lot to defeat them. I suggest you start training right now. Lee, the power of youth is seething in you. This is very good, my student. Naruto literally saw tears of pride appear in Gaia's eyes. He threw his hand up and began to talk about the great power that overwhelmed Rock Lee's body. The Uzumaki began to slowly move away as the teacher and student burst into tears in a furious impulse to begin training right here and now. What, nothing will change these people, she said to Kurama. They still have rainbows coming out of their asses. Fox snorted. Sometimes that's a good thing, Naruto reasoned. But not always. Naruto walked over to the other shinobi and stood next to Shikamaru. He put his arm around her neck, pulling her closer to him and leaning on her. The Uzumaki said nothing, folding her arms across her chest and watching the show unfold. Gaia and Lee, having cried, began to furiously do push-ups so that Team 10 would have no chance. Naruto heard Neji and Tenten sigh. This will take a long time. The girl sighed, rolling her eyes. Neji supported his teammate with a nod of his head. Naruto glanced briefly at Hyuga and thought. Has Neji changed in 5 years? Has the clan changed in 5 years? According to Shikamaru's stories, the guy began to communicate with Hinata, which already said a lot. After all, before, Neji, in principle, had a very bad attitude towards the main branch of his clan. Naruto hadn't seen him since the exam battle, but he remained almost the same in appearance. An emotionless face, a cold gaze, hands folded on his chest, all this was from the old Neji. Except that he stretched out and became a tall and attractive young man. Maybe we can leave here? Uzumaki suggested, looking at Shikamaru and Sasuke. The charge of the power of youth lasted me for several weeks. She undoubtedly respected both Rock Lee and Might Gaia, but the maximum amount of time she could stand with these people was 10 minutes. We won't go to Ichiraku, Nara stated categorically, to which Naruto pointedly rolled her eyes. This makes no sense. Obito-sensei is on a mission. Who should I ruin? Of course, I could take on you, but I'm in a good mood, so we can go somewhere else. The girl grinned. Sasuke sighed heavily and folded his arms across his chest, and Shikamaru defiantly wiped the sweat from his forehead. Stop clowning around, Shika. I didn't even say anything. As if I don't know you. Naruto patted him on the shoulder. How are you, with us? She turned to Team 9. Tenten and Neji looked at each other, then looked at Rock Lee and Gaia, who were still doing push-ups, and shrugged. We didn't have any special plans. Gai-sensei wanted to show off the new training system, but obviously he has no time for that right now. So if you don't mind, we could come with you, Tenten said. Team 10 certainly didn't mind. Still, the company of these shinobi did not cause any discomfort, so soon they all walked in the direction of some establishment. Sasuke, Shikamaru, and Tenten went a little ahead when Naruto and Neji fell behind. The guy positioned himself on the right side of the Jinchuriki, and a tense silence hung between them. Neji, did you want to say something? Naruto couldn't stand it. I thought for a long time about what you told me then. Hyuga started. Perhaps I did not immediately understand the meaning of your words. More precisely, I did not immediately want to understand them. But eventually it happened and I rethought my life. So I guess I should say thank you. Perhaps some of my achievements came from those words. You don't have to thank me. What happened in your life is entirely your fault. You decided to change something, you decided to do it, so you owe everything only to yourself. The girl shrugged. No matter what I said, it wouldn't help if you didn't want to change something in your life. I will remain unconvinced. The guy shook his head. Who would doubt that? Naruto rolled his eyes. Let's assume that I accepted your gratitude. That's good. But I also remained unconvinced. You're right. The Byakugan owner grinned. Naruto thought that she and Neji could become good friends. Of course, it takes more time for them to be able to be called as such, but they are definitely on their way there. Team 10 spent the rest of the day in the company of Team 9. First they came to some cafe where they met Itachi. The clan heir bought dango for himself, but did not stay long. In recent days, he had accumulated many matters that required urgent resolution. The elder Uchiha greeted the entire group, smiling politely at everyone, asked about their plans, and then left, touching Naruto and Sasuke's shoulders. The couple looked after him. Then 5 shinobi sat down at one of the large tables, having first ordered something to eat. Naruto glanced at Sasuke, who at first constantly sat and remained silent. She knew he wasn't entirely comfortable being around people outside of his inner circle, that is, with people who weren't his team, but he never showed it. He just behaved as usual, cold and distant. To be even more precise, Sasuke, of course, experienced a little discomfort, but mostly he was disgusted with the people who surrounded him. The only important people to him were Naruto, Shikamaru, and Itachi. Perhaps, to some extent, Kakashi, Obito, Mikoto, and Gaara could be included in this category, all of whom had different influences on him during a certain period of time. There was another category of people that caused Sasuke extreme irritation: Sakura, Ino, and some other personalities that he didn't even want to think about. The last category is people who cause anger and disappointment. This included, of course, Fugaku. Honestly, Naruto couldn't even imagine who else could be here. The Uchiha perceived everyone else as something flickering on the periphery of consciousness. He absolutely didn't give a about anything they said, did, or didn't do, as long as it didn't concern something that was important to him personally. An hour later, Guy and Lee ran into the establishment, who, in a fit of training, moved from the training ground to the village. The local residents were no longer even frightened seeing the green suits, they only sighed long and continued to go about their business. The 2 shinobi stopped by for just a few minutes to share their accomplishments and future goals. Tenten and Neji nodded their heads, and they safely left the establishment. As the day gave way to evening and the sun was already setting, Naruto noticed that even Sasuke had thought out as much as an Uchiha could. He was having a casual conversation with Shikamaru, and Neji Uzumaki decided that it was just a mixture of intelligence, composure, and malice. The girl herself was talking to Tenten until she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Kiba?" she said in surprise when she recognized him by his chakra. She then turned around and smiled at the guy who took the seat next to her. Sakura and Ino, who came with a friend, sat down with their idols, causing a spark of irritation to flare up in the chests of both Sasuke and Shikamaru. Now there was a real crowd at their table. Everyone was discussing something, talking about something, and eating and drinking something. Sakura tried to attract the Uchiha's attention, but he did not pay attention to it, just as Shikamaru did not look in Ino's direction. The guys were still talking to Neji, who had a smirk on his face. When Naruto went to the bar for a drink, he followed her and asked about the correctness of his judgment regarding the love interests of these ladies. When Uzumaki confirmed his guesses, Hyuga chuckled and the grin did not leave his face all evening. Neji felt extreme amusement watching this circus. And everything was really fine until Kiba dared to put his hand on her chair. Naruto tensed at first, but didn't say anything. After a few minutes, Inuzuka's hand moved to her shoulder, causing the girl to frown. "Databao!" Naruto exclaimed about the loud laughter of the fox in his head. All he could do was make fun of the poor Jinchuriki. Naruto cast a tense glance at the smirking Kiba. He continued to run his fingers over the girl's shoulder. And all this lasted for about 30 seconds, until Naruto felt a sharp surge of ki. He was so weak and fast that no one else felt it, but the Uchiha's brightly burning eyes said that she did not imagine it. Sasuke quickly turned away and closed his eyes, continuing his conversation with Neji. Kiba began to move further down her shoulder as Naruto jerked forward. She looked at Inuzuka with an angry gaze, not paying attention to the loud laughter in her head. Kurama was clearly enjoying himself. "Kiba, what are you doing?" she hissed. The table was very noisy as Ino, Sakura, and Tenten were having a rather loud discussion, so no one heard her question. "Nothing that would raise questions, Naruto." Kiba grinned, striking the girl with his audacity. She was even confused. Uzumaki turned her gaze to Shikamaru, who was watching this whole show with a grin. And then it dawned on her, this beetle had set her up in front of Sasuke. And Shikamaru, like no one else, knew that the Uchiha was still possessive and that now he would walk around and hate everything around him for several hours.